sources of information. Even the scriptures tell you out of 1,000 counselors have one.
Yep.
You know, when you read Ecclesiastes, because everybody always reads Ecclesiastes in the Bible. I'm going to show you something, Mark. Go to Ecclesiastes and about how many sources you're supposed to have. I'm going to as I read this. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. I'm going to tell you, I think you're going to start off for me at verse 7, but I'm going to make sure. Hold up. And this is going to show you the effect. Let me just let it speak for itself. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Chapter 12 and 10:9. And start off at verse 8. And you're going to read. I want you to read all the way down to just to verse 13. Ecclesiastes chapter 8. Start off at chapter 12 and start off at verse 8. You can have AI, you can have this running on a war. I hope it's running
it's
now.
Running officially now. I just want to make sure we're good, but it's definitely running.
Okay, go ahead. Now let me say this out. This is concerning the sources through which the Most High is teaching you, the sources through which the Most High cultivate you. How many are we supposed to be all over? That's why back in the day when I used to do my blog talk, if I saw brothers in the chat room, if they was from New York, I said, well, why don't you go to or Philly? I would but I've been doing this since I came into truth. Brothers getting in touch with me, and I was finding out where they at. Then I sent them I didn't send them to anybody. I sent them to whoever I knew that was reliable, that had that trustworthy record, that superseded that or that went beyond me knowing it. And I would send them there. I would advise, why don't you go here? Why don't you go to this school? Tell them Kawakab sent you. That's what I would do. So why? Because up until that point, they'd be drawn from multiple sources, getting all confused, right? And let me say this. Well, read that verse first, Amiyatazah. You in Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 12 and verse 8.
Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. All is vanity. And moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yea, he gave good heed and sought out and set in order many proverbs.
So remember, this is Solomon talking about himself. When he refers to the preacher, he's speaking in third person concerning himself and what he was doing, what was his objective. Go ahead.
Verse 10. The preacher sought to find out the acceptable words, and that which was written was upright, even words of truth.
So he's telling you about what? The book Ecclesiastes. He's telling you about all of the books that the Most High had him put together. His observations coupled or from the perspective of the man who walked the earth, who the Most High gave a perfect knowledge, gave him the knowledge of literally the Mr. Know-it-all, everything. Go ahead. So he said everything he wrote was upright. Everything he wrote was true. Go ahead.
Verse 11. The words of the wise are as golds, and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies.
Stop. The words of the wise are as golds. Now, this is how you'll know, especially when you first come in, that you're dealing with somebody or a source who the Most High is really cultivating you through. Because a gold is any type of stick or rod with a sharp instrument on it, or it has on the end something with an electrical charge. It's used for cattle driving. Like you got guys on the big ass horses, and they be doing all the, Marlboro man, bunch of cows around, and they, in order to get the cows to go where they want to, they have a prod. They call them cattle prods. That's what a gold is. But in more modern times, the instrument on the tip of it has an electrical charge. And shock the animal when he goes there. So he's telling you the words of the wise are as golds. That means your natural inclination is not to do or head in the right direction. And the words of the wise have the effect of pricking or shocking you into order. That's what he's telling you. The words are now, whoever want to go do it. Look up what the term gold means, and you'll see. The words of the wise are as golds, and as what? Nails. Go ahead, Amiyatazan.
And as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies.
Stop right there. Now, nails. Now he's telling you how. The gold is what's used. The nail is telling you how he uses it. How do you fasten nails into any damn thing? You got to hammer them. The words of the wise be hammered in by, because that's how we need it. That's the only way Israel responds. And we can say all that we don't, but our history proves that we only respond to beatings. We only respond to coercion. So the words of the wise are automatically sharp words. They're automatically what? Shocking. They're automatically pricking. They're designed to prick your consciousness. They're designed to force you to get you to go in a direction that you're already inclined to not go. But on top of that, now those very same words which already prick you, which already shock you, have to be hammered in, because that's how you hammer in nails. That's how you fasten nails. They're hammered in. Go ahead and read it from the top again, Amiyatazah.
Verse 11. The words of the wise are as golds, and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd.
Which are given from how many shepherds?
One shepherd.
Which are given from one shepherd. So if you're the cattle, like myself being the cattle when I came into the school, the source that I drew from was one source. I say source because back then it was a school. We all had, the school was comprised of various camps, but we all were under the authority and tutelage of a specific body of elders. So that's that one source. Then you had other Israelite groups out there. You had the groups that follow Esau's, don't believe in Christ. You had the groups that's only into the Old Testament. You had the groups that to this very day, they know they're Israelites, and these are more recently come to the fold, but they still maintain the Christian format. They still do their Israelite services just like Christianity, and they do it on Sundays. So you've always had, just like in the back of the day, concerning interpretation of the law, during the time of Christ and before, we were always divided into various sects. You understand? Various groups. We were always fragmented. But whatever group you belong to, that should be your source of information. And that's what the Lord said. The words of the wise are as golds and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd. And so people be going out and hearing, I thought the brother said man-tard. Well, that's like a retarded man. But he said manzar, right? Yeah, man, I ain't never heard of that word. And I've been reading the Bible for a few minutes now, but that problem is you're drawing off of too many sources. It's like brothers be out there watching videos for entertainment. Why don't you shut the computer off and study? You got all of these 3-hour episodes or lessons that Awar is given on Mondays, that Sham Shawan is given on Wednesdays, that I'm sharing with you on Fridays, and then who knows how many hours you guys do on Saturdays. And now you can't tell me that during the week you're gonna cover all of that. That's what brothers do. They be trying, Israel, period. They be trying to get educated without having to study. They be trying to get Bible educated in the Bible, but they want to be entertained at the same time. And say that again,
I got the definition for that word, man.
Yeah, you have to speak up or get closer to the mic. I say that for the whole zone. If the sound is as low for me, then I have to assume the sound is just as low for the people that's watching the stream on YouTube, and then the sound is going to be just as low for the recording. I could be wrong because I'm not on that end. But go ahead, brother.
I had addressed the sound last week, but you sound fine. Amiyatazah sounds fine. Even I had trouble. But no, I think our mic is a little low. But I have that meaning for the word mamzer.
Okay, go ahead and read it.
It says a strange person in the Hebrew Bible and Jewish religious law. A mamzer, a strange person, plural mamzering, is a person born from certain forbidden relationships or from incest or the descendant of such a person.
Okay, let me ask you a question. How do you spell that?
It's Mamzer.
Okay, M-A-N as in November, or M-A-M as in like man?
Man. So M-A-M.
Like yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm looking it up in the concordance so I can see if I can find that word. Ma'am is Z-E-R? No, brother. The last word I get is memory, M-A-M-R-E. Before that one, the Mammon, Malta, Malucci, Maluch, Malos. I'm going from the last M-A-M word on up, coming backward. So it's common enough to find in the dictionary, but you won't find the word in the Bible. Now help me to understand that. You know, so my question would be, what's the source of information that introduced that word and then found a definition to be able to attribute it to a Hebrew culture? You know, is it Esau? Is it his Talmud? I don't know. But I tell you what, the Bible do have a word for children born of foreigners, particularly of the woman with a foreign man, because all Israelites born of Israelite men, no matter what women you deal with, are Israelites. You understand? So there was an Israelite woman that came out of Egypt with our forefathers, Israelite, but she had a son who was an Egyptian. She had a son who was, she obviously was subject to the same dynamic that our women and we are today, where the Egyptians was sleeping with our women and hadn't given them babies. And this was one of those guys who was cursing the name of the Most High. The Most High killed him. So, but he would be classified. Now, if you want to be technical, because that's what we're going to go over today, the first portion of the class, we're going to get into the Sabbath. The sister asked a question about the Sabbath concerning the liberties, things that can be, activities that can be participated in or carried out on the Sabbath, and then what are the true limitations? And you got let me say this, you have the train of thought of the food, the school of thought where people say that if you're in the Sabbath and you breaking the law, the fact that you're in captivity is no justification for breaking the Sabbath. And they a bunch of damn Pharisee and hypocrites. Hold on. Aló, pase mijo. Amorcita, el patojo. Gracias. Yeah, so and I'm sure, because I got reports of how they brothers visiting and coming from different zones to have a council or some convocation, and some brothers went out to buy some water on the Sabbath and the brothers wouldn't drink it. I wish that had been a hot ass day. That's how I feel. Because you on the Sabbath, you got the Bible, you've been in the Bible, you've been teaching this for 30 years plus. You know, these are men that I saw in the that visited, that were there when I had been there 5 to 7 years when I got there, and I got there 30 something years ago. You know what I mean? And that means to tell me you've developed all to the point where you still don't realize it's okay to do good on the Sabbath. I'm saying somebody goes to get, this is happening in our circles of co-workers. It's happening in the brothers in the purple and gold. I have a brother that I've been teaching for years down in Kentucky, and he was just excited to see some brothers there in Louisville. He went out on the Sabbath, man, and went to the store, bought water, and they asked him, you know, did you just buy this? He said, yeah, we don't drink it. What, brother? You know, you guys, y'all don't see this, so let's go and start with the whole. And this is why you're supposed to be drawing from one source. What source do you draw from? The Bible, first and foremost. That's everybody's source. But how do you know what source to be able to refer to that's teaching the Bible? That means it has to be all Bible and no them. It has to be all the word of the Most High and none of them, none of their rank, none of their stature, none of their title, none of their personality. It's supposed to be the Heavenly Father, Christ, and you shut up and listen. That's how it's supposed to be. And that's why the scripture tell you in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, keep thy foot when thou comest into the house of the Lord. That means any place where his word is being taught. Ain't no building. So that means if you don't,
Kawakab.
huh?
Salakia, this is Sarkai. Can you also touch, because I was the one who asked the question, can you also touch on just practical practices, I guess, like,
That's what
for
we're gonna
example,
do. Hey, sister,
okay,
but we're gonna go over the scriptures first. We're gonna
Okay.
watch, we're gonna show, and forgive me for using this word, but I want to use the scriptures to expose what I refer to, for lack of a better word. I should say the progression. I was gonna say the evolution of our experience with the Sabbath. So we will start off actually where the Sabbath is first introduced to us. So let's go to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20. And I'm gonna be stepping on some toes because only thing I'm making it a point to do is keep my language clean. That's the most important thing now, is to not be able for people to find fault with you guys' ministry simply because I went and was exercising liberties that I shouldn't with my language. So I'm conscious that this is you guys' ministry and not mine, and I'm just being invited. So Exodus chapter 20, and you're going to read verses 8 through 11. Now remember, this is the first. Let me drink this water. I'm going to sit up here and drop this glass. The first thing that was introduced to our fathers coming out of Egypt was the body of laws called the Ten Commandments. And most people don't really understand what Israelites, when I say people, I'm referring in this instance to Israelites, we haven't really come to the understanding that what was the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments was an introductory to what would be to the rest that would be given to us. In other words, it was the tool that the Most High was using to begin an immediate crash course reconfiguration of our minds coming out of Egypt. And that's why it's not complete. And I'm gonna prove it to you. But it's enough to get you to what? To be recognized as obedient and faithful by the Most High. But it still leaves out a whole lot. And I'm gonna show you. So read verses 8 through 11, Exodus chapter 20. But people are gonna be like writing all these lines. I'm gonna show you. Go ahead.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates.
Right. Is that verse 11?
No.
Go ahead.
Verse 11. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Okay, that's the law. Now, that's cut and dry, crystal clear. Nothing to be done by anyone, neither by our beasts of burden, right? Neither by the foreigners, the strangers living among us that had to abide by our laws. So let's get an example of how strictly that law, that commandment was enforced. But before you do that, I want to read the whole 10 Commandments. So go back to chapter 20 and start off at verse 1 on the Yetzirah. So, because I want to quantify what it is I said when I said that it's not complete. When I say it's not complete, I'm saying it was just what it was. It was an introductory that was designed to be a crash course. It was the first step in a series that would take 40 years of what? Of reconfiguring our minds, Israelite minds coming out of Egypt to get out of the Egyptian way. So the Most High had to start somewhere. And the 10 Commandments is the instrument that he began with. Read on down, Amayetas. I start off with verse 1.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 1. And the Most High spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy power, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them.
Now here, let me help you out with this. This is not telling you you can't decorate your house with things, because the Most High turned around and had the Solomon, the thing that's in heaven that you're not supposed to make and bow down to. The Lord had him make the cherubs, the angels with their wings stretched out over the ark of the covenant. The Most High had that wasn't Solomon, but that was placed in the holy part of the temple. The Most High had Solomon configure the temple, and we had decorative items like lions in the before coming up the stairs before certain rooms. So brothers be looking at your painting on the wall, be coming in and seeing whatever statue you got, some sculpture, I don't know, and they'll say you ain't supposed to have that. You're not supposed to worship it. That's what he just read. You're not supposed to make anything of anything in heaven, any image of anything in heaven, of anything in the earth, of anything beneath the earth, of anything in the water, and bow yourself to it and offer stuff. If you're a butterfly collector and you like pictures of butterflies, your daughter got a big old 9-foot statue of a butterfly in the room, just make sure she don't bow down to it and burn incense to it. You understand? Brother, you say it's like everybody putting themselves into things. So go ahead, Amayetas, read on down.
Verse 5. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me.
So this is crystal clear. We're not supposed to bow down to, you can't take a microphone and bow down to a microphone. You're not supposed to take the image of anything and begin to venerate it. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Verse 7. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy power in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain.
That means just the inordinate or unnecessary use of the name of the Most High. It's not talking about the title that the heathen have bestowed upon him, that's spelled G-O-D. That's not his name. You understand? So he's talking about his name. You ain't supposed to take it. That means you're not supposed to just be out there casually using the Most High's name. That's the most we're supposed to get it is using is teaching, truly teaching, praying to the Heavenly Father in Christ's name. Aside from that, we ain't supposed to do it. That's what he says in vain. He is idle use of the Most High's name, which is inordinate or unnecessary, excessive use of his name. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother.
Go ahead.
Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long, and upon the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee.
Go ahead.
Verse 13. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Now there you have it. Now what's left out? We can say literally everything else, because the Most High tells us what not to do in the beginning. Do not make anything any images and bow down to them. So he's telling us we don't honor the Most High. We don't honor the any entity as if it were the Most High. But what he didn't show us is how he wants to be recognized. That's what is lacking, because he was going to get to that later. It didn't tell. It doesn't have nothing about the dietary law. It has nothing about the uncleanliness and uncleanliness. Nothing about leprosy. Nothing about sex. Like I said, what it was, it was literally just the Most High wanted to start somewhere. So this is where he started with, because it was about what? A process that we had to undergo that would result through obedience to the reconfiguration of our minds and how we thought, right? So now, let's go to Numbers chapter 15. Numbers chapter 15 is an example of how severely, or let's say how strictly enforced the Sabbath day was, and how severely punished violators of it were. Or I should say how severely, how severely violators of the Sabbath law were punished. So go ahead, I'm gonna yet you in chapter 15, and you're gonna start off at verse 31, and we're gonna read to verse 36.
Numbers chapter 15, verse 31. Because he have despised the word of the Lord and have broken his commandment, that soul shall utterly be cut off.
Go
His
ahead.
iniquity shall be upon him.
Continue.
And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks upon the Sabbath day. And they that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Moses and Aaron and unto all the congregation.
So that means they took it upon themselves to seize this man. They took him into custody. The ones who found him took him to Moses. Go ahead.
Verse 34. And they put him in ward because it was not declared what should be done to him.
Yeah, when it says in ward, that would be the equivalent of just what? Of incarcerating him until to find out what should be done. We would call that jail. He could be house arrest, whatever. The point was he was detained. He wasn't allowed to go. He wasn't allowed to go free and or be liberated until they should find out. Go ahead.
Verse 35. And the Lord said unto Moses, the man shall be surely put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp. And all the congregation brought him without the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died, as the Lord commanded Moses.
Now that's how severely enforced, or how strictly the Sabbath law was enforced. And then that's also how severely a violator was punished. So the question today is legitimate. You understand? Now, somewhere between Moses and Christ, things not happened, but the Most High was taking us into a direction. And I'm going to show you how the Most High deal with Israel. So first, we're going to go to Matthew. We're going to go to these circumstances through Christ. But not all, but multiple occasions where the Pharisees and others are trying to find fault with Yahushua during his ministry. So let's first start off in Matthew chapter 12. We're going to read Matthew chapter 12, verses 1 through, we'll see when we get there, maybe 12, maybe 13, I'll see. Excuse me, y'all. Matthew chapter 12. Start off with verse 1 on the other side.
At that time, Yahushua went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were an hungered, and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day.
Mm-hmm.
But he said unto them, Have you not read what David did when he was a hungered, and they that were with him? How he entered into the house of the Most High, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests.
Now stop right there. This is Yahushua himself calling the Pharisees' attention to a moment in their own history that where David found himself in life-threatening circumstances. Now that's one extreme, but still was life-threatening circumstances. David was being what? Pursued by Saul with the intention, Saul, of killing David. So David was in an extreme circumstance, and he was trying to what? To survive. Because our people today will take the Sabbath and won't even have enough sense. You know, I'm talking about the people that teach, won't even have enough sense to do what it takes to survive. And then they'll throw something out like the captivity is no excuse. Well, why don't you go out and start killing homos then? Why don't you go out and do everything the law says to do? Because the Sabbath ain't the only thing. The Sabbath is one element of the law. So that's how the Pharisees were coming at Christ. Read on down. He says, so you remember David, right? Go ahead.
Verse 5. Or have you not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if you had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless.
So in other words, he's saying that what? That I'm greater than the Sabbath. This is what he's telling them. And if you'd have understood what that meaning, when he says, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you would have not condemned the guiltless. The guiltless that he's referring to is his apostles that were eating on the Sabbath, that were picking corn and eating on the Sabbath. The Pharisees were finding fault with them. So Christ is stinging the Pharisees for coming at them. Now, we're going to let this thing unfold. Right? What verse was that on the Yetazah?
That was verse 8.
Okay. Continue on down.
Oh, sorry, that was verse 7. We're on verse 8 now.
Verse 7.
Verse
Go
8.
ahead. Verse 8.
For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day.
So he's referring to himself. Like I said, we're not going to knock this out in one verse. We're going to let all these verses that we have unfold and come to the conclusion that I could just give in 1 minute. But it's good to read to be able to what? Understand the thinking. So now Christ is telling you what? That the things going on in their lifetime revolve around him. That's why he said this, the Son of Man, he said there's one greater than the temple. After having what? Tell them that, don't you know that you can go into your own scriptures and read how on the Sabbath day, the priests profane the temple and are blameless. And I'm greater than the temple is what he's saying. But if you'd have understood that, then you would have known also with this word, you know, that he gave a passage that you can find somewhere in the scriptures where I will have mercy and not sacrifice. Go ahead, Yetazah, verse 9.
And when he was departed thence, he went into their synagogue. And behold, there was a man which had his hand withered. And they asked him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days, that they might accuse him?
Yeah, now let me say this. Why did Christ should have smote them with a sickness and asked them, you know, you want to be healed now, or you want to wait until tomorrow? That's how easy getting into people is. But the Most High had Christ in a cold. The Most High should have smote them with something that was so intolerable that they would want to be cured then and say, no, you got to wait. Today's the Sabbath. That's how idiotic that question was. A miracle. They're asking Christ to set him up. Is it lawful to perform a miracle on the Sabbath? It's just, you know, so why am I pulling this up? Because this be the same, the spirit is the same that's operating, brothers. It be the same, I'm holier than thou, you know, I'm perfect, which nobody is, but their intentions aren't even perfect. Read on down.
Verse 11. And he said unto them, what man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold on it and lift it out? How much then is a man better than a sheep?
Now stop right there. So the example that he's using, remember, Christ didn't roll in in hypothetical situations. The examples that he'd be given were based on, number one, either things that they could confirm, like he just used David when David was being pursued by Saul. He just used the conduct of the priests on the Sabbath day, and are considered blameless. So this issue with the sheep, Christ is knowing what each one of them did. So he's using examples that whether the men themselves, those Pharisees, would acknowledge, he's using examples that he knows each one of them are guilty of. That's what people don't get that. It's like when the lady was being, they getting ready to stone the lady for adultery, that was caught in adultery. You go and read the scriptures, it says Christ stooped and he started scribbling something in the sand. What do you think he was scribbling? He was scribbling the sins of the people. It don't tell you that, but that's what I believe. He was scribbling the sins of the people that were in that very crowd. That's why it says he did that, and then he looked up and said, well, let he that is without sin cast the first stone. So he probably was writing, yeah, homo, just scribbling sins in the sand that people are looking at his hands, knowing that he's writing about them. Just like the Samaritan woman, go get your husband, Christ told her. I have no husband. He said, well, finally you're telling the truth, because you have had 5 husbands, and the one that you're with right now is not yours. She was like, I perceive that thou art a prophet. And then she went back to town and said, what? I just think I met the Christ. He told me everything ever I did. So this is how Christ operated. So when he said the sheep, he knew some of them lost the sheep or something fell in the pit and they lifted it up. And then he goes and says, no, you telling me that this man is not worth your sheep? That's what he's telling them. Without having to what? Without having to say it to everybody. That's how Christ rolled. Every person he knew. That's why you find verse where he said, and he knew their thoughts. Because they was accusing him of having healed people by the spirit of Beelzebub, king of the, what was it? The king of the demons or whatever. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 12. How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days.
Stop right there. So that right there is our answer. Wherefore then it what? It is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days. But we're going to continue to read to exhaust this, because now we're going to need to define well. What is well? What doing well for one person is not doing well for another person. And that very well may be true. But the third party, this person, he can't determine what's well for me because he don't have my workload. He don't have my, let me say this. There's many people, many camps, many congregations that don't have you guys' workload. Period. I'm talking to you there in San Antonio. There's others that do, and there's some that don't. A long list of those that don't. And so you don't have, it's not a common dynamic in Israel where you have a congregation. I'm not saying you're the only ones. That's why I said it's not common that whoever comes to that school from the time that it was founded in 1992, that they become a part of a body, that the force that you operate out of is interdependency. Everybody depends on the next man and the next woman's job, and that's how all of you are taken care of. The majority of you. Some brothers have their jobs and they have they're dynamic on how they support the school, but the majority of the body of men and women are directly responsible for the functioning of the school, for the paying of the bills, for the putting food on other people's tables. You understand? For paying for putting money in each other's pocket. And so to exercise or to enter into that capacity of operations, like the businesses that we've had for decades now, we work on Saturdays. So you'll have guys that just go out on Saturdays and speak, and they go to their job for Esau Monday through Friday, right? And then they'll come and tell you violated the Sabbath, but they ain't give up what you gave up. They ain't accepted the commitment that you've accepted. They haven't assumed true responsibility for all the brothers in that camp like you really have. And that's why I said, so for them doing well, is, you see what I'm saying, Amiyah, is that right? For them doing well is one thing, but for you doing well is another.
Meeting up once. It's true though. They meet up once a week, stand in the street abusing people, and they think that they're righteous, but you gave up.
Some of them don't even teach it.
You know?
And so that's why so we're going to go as far as what defining well is. All right. So the more control we have over the more authority, I'm going to put the word that needs to be used. The more sovereignty we have, the more we can do. And what is sovereignty? Sovereignty is nothing more than self-governance, man. It's what we don't have because we're being punished. And the Most High tell you back in 2 Chronicles chapter 36, maybe like 5 verses before the end, that we were so sinful that Jerusalem couldn't appreciate her Sabbaths until the Most High kicked us out. Matter of fact, let's read that. We're coming back to here on the episode because we're not done. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 36. Second Chronicles chapter 36.
Yeah, you definitely have to be careful. I remember I was speaking to some Israelite brothers here in London.
Yeah.
And they were doing that same dynamic where they meet up on Saturday. And I said to them, I says, like, aren't you guys tired of working for Esau? I said, why don't you guys set up your own business and have your camp where you're interdependent on one another? And they was like, nah, the most High wouldn't be down with that. Most High's not down with that. And
they threw Deuteronomy 28 at you, right?
They didn't even throw no scriptures at me. They just said, no, the Most High isn't down with that. It wouldn't work. And I was just like, and you guys honestly think you're wise? You know, you guys honestly think you're dropping something deep here? You know, and I'm just like, yeah, you really do have to be careful. You know, especially new people. You know, who you're talking to and who you're listening to. But as you said, there are levels to this thing, as people say in the world. You know, as you said, what's well to one person was good to one person, you know, isn't good to somebody else. As you said, it truly is relative. You know, for someone like, you know, for someone that you said that's, pardon?
I said, go ahead.
Yeah, as you said, you got brothers here, you know, left their state to move to another state, and you know, giving up their whole lives, giving up everything, just to be a part, incremental part of a body, of a camp, where as you just said, other new people now are able to come now, right, and have a school, you know, to actually sit in and learn, to have a home to live in, because of the works that these brothers that have sacrificed everything, that have given up stuff, I'm saying, have created for these new people. But yet someone who literally is a part-time Israelite just meets once a week to teach, will judge those people. I'm like, that's bullshit. It's a joke.
Well, let's watch our language, man. I just said in the opening that I'm gonna keep it clean for these brothers, man. You and me can get on and do our thing later, you know. And so that's why I said, now people might think, well, but the fact that you said that's well, no, it's not, it's the truth. Because what is well doing for one setting might be totally unnecessary for another. You understand? It's based on it's based on functionality. What makes your ministry function properly? Period, point blank, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to just teach the word, we read the Bible. We're here to just talk. We're here to what? Assume responsibility for one another. Let me ask you this. Who knows what the word of the Most High, what the work of the Most High is? What is the work of the Most High? The work of,
You are my work.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. What were you going to say, Amiyakia?
The duty of all men to follow the commandments.
That's the duty of all men. I said, what is the work of the Most High? Nagaha dropped in. Nagaha said, you are. And you got the men and the women and the families and the children are the work of the Most High. But the word teaches us how to what? How to function, how to operate, how to exercise our job. It gives us
1 Corinthians 9:1. Huh?
Yeah, it gives us, go there on me, yes, 1 Corinthians 9:1. It gives us the parameters of operation on how to what? How to deal, how to perform our duty. But the work of the Most High are the men, the women, and the children. The work of the Most High is his sons and daughters. So yeah, we teach, and that's an element of it. But let's say the people come to the truth now. And that's why it tells you in James, if a brother or sister be destitute of food, place to stay, of clothes, and you say, bless my child, or be thou filled, nonetheless, or notwithstanding, you don't give them things in that moment needed for the body, then what good, it says, is your faith without works? Proof that the works are supposed to be executed in the care of one another. And we're the work of the Most High. And it all revolves around your needs. This is cold. We still in the Sabbath, but I'm trying to show you. But what I'm going into now, I'm going into well. So let me go ahead and quantify what I just said concerning when we were put into captivity by the Babylonians. The Most High was expecting us to follow the Babylonians. He wasn't expecting us to go down there and be holy all of a sudden. He just gave us our parameters. He did expect us to follow the laws and to follow the laws to the best of our ability. But when it was out of our hands, the most you could ask for us is that we not participate in the evil. And that's where Daniel found himself. Daniel found himself being compelled to participate in the evil, and he didn't cross that line, got thrown in the lion's den. The Most High delivered him. The three holy children, they were servants under Daniel, under the king of Babylon. And the people around them, all of the kings, the Babylonian servants were jealous of them and wanted to get them. Then when the music is playing, they won't bow down. King said, y'all gonna bow down. They said, no, we ain't. We're gonna throw you in the fiery furnace. Well, even if our Lord God don't deliver us, we ain't bowing down. And they didn't bow down, and they got thrown in the fiery furnace. But aside from that, they had no control over how things were done. The only thing that they could pray for is that they weren't asked to do something evil, having to disobey it, and it resulted in the taking of their life. And the Most High, so let's read that. Read 2 Chronicles chapter 36. I want you to start off at verse 14. Now, you can read verse 14 all the way down to verse 21.
Moreover, all the chief of the priests and the people transgressed very much after all the abominations of the heathen, and polluted the house of the Lord, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem.
These were in the last day, or these were in the days of the last king of Israel. Go ahead.
And the Lord power of their fathers sent to them by his messengers, rising up betimes and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place.
Go ahead.
But they mocked the messengers of the Most High and despised his words and misused his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord arose against his people, till there was no remedy.
Most High said, you can't even preserve these people. That's what it meant when it said no remedy. That means we did everything in the world to show the Most High we would not what? Humble ourselves, and there was no remedy. There was no way that we could be preserved. So the Most High had to destroy us. Go ahead.
Verse 17. Therefore he brought upon them the king of the Chaldees, who slew their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion upon young man or maiden, old man, or him that stooped for age. He gave them all into his hand. Verse 18. And all the vessels of the house of the Most High, great and small, and the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king and of his princes, all these he brought to Babylon. And they burnt the house of the Most High, and brake down the wall of Jerusalem, and burnt all the palaces thereof with fire, and destroyed all the goodly vessels thereof. And them that had escaped from the sword carried he away to Babylon, where they were servants to him and his sons unto the reign of the kingdom of Persia,
Go ahead.
to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. For as long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath, to fulfill 10 years.
So the Most High said, okay, they won't follow my laws. I'm going to send them out. I'm going to kill a whole bunch of them, and everybody that survives is going to Babylon. And then we still could have prevented that. Do you know how we could have prevented that? It's in the book of Baruch. It's in Baruch chapter 2. The Most High said, listen, you're going to serve the king of Babylon, and you're going to do everything he said do. And all the king of Babylon wanted was a certain amount of tribute. All the different products that we used in back in the day, it wouldn't just be gold and silver. It would be so much of grain, so much of cattle, and all that type of stuff. And we wouldn't. The Lord said, if you serve the king of Babylon, you can do that and you can stay in your land. But we wouldn't. Why do I say that? Because brothers be acting like when you're in slavery, you ain't supposed to serve. Well, what did Daniel do? And it resulted in him being exalted. What did Joseph do? And it resulted in him being exalted. And the reason, well, you mean to tell me Joseph was 17 years old. So that means he had developed his somewhat man face when his brothers put him in that hole, came back and found him gone. 23 years later, or something like that, they find Joseph. He's the man in Egypt, and they don't recognize him. Why is that? Because Joseph had locked into the Egyptian way with all that Egyptian paint. They stood before him on 2 occasions and got grain, sat at the table with him, and didn't know it was their younger brother. Why do I go down there? In other words, Joseph locked into his circumstance without disobeying the Most High. So brothers be acting like, like they fulfill the whole law because they go out on a Saturday or have a couple of days, but they haven't relinquished their life. They haven't taken their body and handed it over to the Most High and said, how do you want to use me? And it results in serving the body 7 days a week for the last 28 years. Just talk about San Antonio, Texas alone. Because that's how long y'all been rolling. Because I was down, I'm the one that came down there with Ariella, and the Most High used us to establish it in November of 92. So we've had waves of men and waves of women that have come through and relinquished their life, and they're still standing. Now you got guys that'll come through there and won't assume responsibility, but sit back and nitpick. And we got guys like that among us who won't assume responsibility, but will nitpick. And so the Sabbath is just one of the many things that people come and try to nitpick about. Well, they got the meat tree, it's just their term should just say Saturday. They should have a Hebrew Sabbath embroidered on it because that's the only day they use it. So here we're defining what good is. So let's go back, Amiyatazar, to Matthew. We're in Matthew chapter 12, and I think we had like 1 or 2 more verses to go. You had read verse 12, read verse 12 again.
How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days. Then saith he to the man, stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it forth, and it was restored whole, like as the other.
Right. So he did that because it was good to do Sabbath. To do good, it was good, it was okay, it was legal to do what? Lawful to do good on the Sabbath. So now I'm gonna use real life circumstances before we continue. Now let me say this, the issue with the corn can also be found, you guys write it down. And we're gonna read them too, because every little verse give a little something that the next one doesn't. So if the next one is in Luke or Mark, actually, Mark chapter 2, verses, should have went there first, verses 20, I should have saved this one for last that we just read. But Mark chapter 2, verses 23 to 28, and Luke chapter 6, Mark chapter 2, verses 23 to 28, and Luke chapter 6, verses 1 through 11. Now, if you really, like when you're in class, and you really want to make the point, I would always put Mark number 1, I would put Luke the second verse, and then because of how the details emerge. And then I would put Matthew number 3, because that's when it finally resolves and says, okay, it's good, it's okay to do well on the Sabbath. And so using the sister asked, and this is beautiful, she asked for, how did she say, practicality? What was the word that she used? So I don't want to put words in her mouth, but every like application. Say that again, sister. So y'all, one of y'all brothers screaming out so I can hear it.
Practical practices.
Practical purposes.
Okay, beautiful. Now let's take that verse, those three. First, let's read. Let's go back to Mark, go to Mark chapter 2. And then we're going to enter with this group of scriptures into practical purposes. Mark chapter 3. I said Mark chapter 3. Mark chapter 2 on the X, verses 23 through 28.
And it came to pass that he went through the cornfields on the Sabbath day, and his disciples began as they went to pluck the ears of corn. And the Pharisees said unto him, Behold, why do they on the Sabbath day that which is not lawful? And he said unto them, Have ye never read what David did when he had need and was an hungered, he and they that were with him? How he went into the house of the Most High in the days of Abiathar the high priest, and did eat the showbread, which is not lawful to eat, but for the priests, and
Now,
gave
hold
also
on. Go ahead.
and gave also to them which were with him.
Now, how many men were with David? There was one phase when he first took off, he had 400 men and their families. Then, but before Saul would take full pursuit of him, David, it tells you that everyone that was in debt and that was discontent, and that was, I used to call them the 3D crew, because it says they were in debt, they were discontent, and the disillusioned. They made themselves David's army. So he ended up with 600 men and their families. So that was a lot of bread to be eaten. Now, where can you find that at? You find that in 1 Samuel chapter 21, verse 1 and 6. And on top of that, David lied. Matter of fact, let's go, because Christ, this is 2 times that Christ had made a reference to that. So let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 21, and we're going to read verses 1 through 6. Let me mark my spot. No pun intended. When you get there, you can start reading.
Then came David to Nob, to Ahimelech the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David, and said unto him, Why art thou alone, and no man with thee?
Now listen to this. David, he's asking David, everybody knows that what? That David is being pursued and Saul is trying to kill him. So when he saw David alone, he was worried. David, why are you alone? How come nobody's with you, man? Go ahead. Which means what he's showing, he loved David. Continue.
Verse 2. And David said unto Ahimelech the priest, The king hath commanded me a business, and have said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee, and what I have commanded thee. And I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. Now therefore,
hold up. Now, is that true? Is that what why David was there? Well, listen to what he said. He told Abimelech, the king sent me on a mission. He sent me on to run an errand that he didn't want anyone else to know about it. So all my men, I told them to wait here while I handled something else. That ain't what happened. The king was trying to kill him. So not only is David getting ready to eat the showbread, which is unlawful, he's lying about it. And we're going to end up doing a class on that verse that talks about executing the knowledge of the Most High. They go on the right hand and on the left. Because people be being overhauled. This man is trying to survive. That's just how bad people don't want to die. That sometimes they don't just tell the truth about everything. This is David. This every now and then you'll find yourself just trying to live one more day. And so if you have to tell that little, if you have to go into survival mode, now you've been released. You've been freed up from that. All these, Pharisees. Go ahead, brother.
verse 4. Now therefore, what is under thine hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in mine hand, or what there is present. And the priest answered David and said, There is no common bread under mine hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women.
So listen, he's like, I can't just give it to you. Then the men that are with you, have they at least not been with women? In other words, have they abstained from sex? Go ahead.
Verse 5. And David answered the priest and said unto him, Of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days since I came out, and the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in the manner common. Yea, though it was sanctified this day in the vessel.
Go ahead.
So the priest gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread there but the showbread that was taken from before the Lord to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away.
So there you have it. Right? Now this is the episode that Christ is referring to. So when you read that, you're not just supposed to read that he what? That he ate the showbread only, but the circumstances of how he acquired it. And after that, after all that, the Most High said of David that he had found David, the son of Jesse, to be a man after his own heart. So what are we talking about? For practical purposes, sister, right here, he was trying to stay alive. You know, survival. And this is him operating like that in an extreme case. But the priest that Christ referred to, where it says they profaned the Sabbath in the temple every Sabbath and are held blameless, that was something they did. That was their setting. They were never in life-threatening circumstances. But there were things that the Most High just. But now what happens is when he said profane the Sabbath in the temple, it's saying that despite the talk, the conversation, no one could walk around and just be holy, 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 holy. You know, you can't do that. So the conversation that would erupt among them, just the things that would happen, would be a profanation. What is a profanation? It's something that's simply not holy. Like right now, if we should start talking about the up and coming Mike Tyson fight, just out of nowhere. Right now, we're talking about holy things, but then the minute we start talking about something non-related to the scriptures, and then more so non-related to the topic, then we're doing what? It's profane. It is a non-holy topic. That's all. Profanity ain't the vulgarities that we use, that I'm known to use. Vulgarity and common speak is one thing. Profanity is not the MFs and the SOBs. Profanity is any talk. Now, it includes that, but it's not limited to that. You understand? So go back now and yet as I finish up in the book of Mark. Mark chapter 2, and you had started at verse 23.
Verse 27 now.
Okay, go ahead.
And he said unto them, The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath.
Now, what does that mean? The Sabbath was made for man, and man not for the Sabbath. That's why I really wanted to read that other one last. Because he's telling you the Most High made that to give us, for the same reason he did it, to rest. And just in case you don't believe that that's what it was for, look at what mankind today without a Sabbath has evolved to. Look at what societies have evolved to. People don't rest. You understand? We all live in cities now that never sleep. Everything is about generating money. Everything is about generating money or the nonstop, the never-ending pursuit or to acquire goods. So that's why you got jobs that just where people just, you know, they start off at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and work till anywhere from 6. I had one of them jobs, work from 6 to 8 in the morning. I used to work from 12-hour shift from 8 at night to 8 in the morning. I had one job where I worked 56. I mean, 56 straight hours. You go in Tuesday at 2 o'clock, you get off on Thursday at 10. That was one of the probation correction facilities. They just had a thing, but then you got 5 days off. Yet I had from Thursday night at 10 o'clock off, and I have to be back at work again until the following Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's what would happen. You end up in a society where people ain't rested. It's all about generating goods. It's all about, acquiring and in pursuit of things. So the Most High said the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. This is Christ speaking. Go ahead, Amayetazah. Is that it? That verse 28?
That's it.
Okay, let's go to the one in Luke chapter 6, verses 1 through 11. Go ahead and read that.
And it came to pass on the second Sabbath after the first, that he went through the cornfields, and his disciples plucked the ears of corn, and did eat, rubbing them in their hands. And certain of the Pharisees said unto them, Why do ye that which is not lawful to do on the Sabbath days?
Mm-hmm.
And Yahushua answering them said, Have ye not read so much as this, what David did, when himself was an hungered, and they which were with him? How he went into the house of the Most High, and did take and eat the showbread, and gave also to them that were with him, which is not lawful to eat, but for the priests alone. And he said unto them, that the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. And it came to pass also on another Sabbath, that he entered into the synagogue and taught. And there was a man whose right hand was withered. And the scribes and Pharisees watched him, whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, that they might find an accusation against him.
Go ahead.
But he knew their thoughts.
Let's stop. Let's put that in perspective, using us. So there's a convocation going down in San Antonio. Brothers are coming all over. And then somebody goes, well, it's hot in here. It is San Antonio, Texas. And so somebody goes and gets some water. And the brothers visiting say, you just bought that on the Sabbath? What kind of, y'all don't see that? Y'all, like I said, man, y'all should just turn up the heat. Let everybody who have wanted some water drink it. And let's see what become of them dudes, man. That might sound wrong, but it's not. Just to show how it's non-practical. Drinking water that was just purchased on that day is not work. But even if it was it good? Was it well doing? It was a great thing to do for somebody to go out and get water on a hot day for visitors. It would have been even if they had to came with some ices or some snow cones. Then ice cream, it doesn't matter. Why? The intent behind it. That's why I said doing well on the Sabbath in one setting is open to a scrutiny by a certain group of people, while it's completely legitimate to another group of people. Read on down, Amayetazah.
Verse 8. But he knew their thoughts, and said to the man which had the withered hand, Rise up and stand forth in the midst. And he arose and stood forth. Then said Yahushua unto them, I will ask you one thing. Is it lawful on the Sabbath days to do good or to do evil, to save life or to destroy it?
See that? Go ahead.
And looking round about upon them all, he said unto the man, Stretch forth thy hand. And he did so, and his hand was restored whole as the other.
Mm. And
they were filled with madness, and communed one with another what they might do to Yahushua.
So look at this, now what spirit, this is what makes you have to question the people in whose company you find yourself. When they get angry or become accusatory or judgmental because something good is taking place on the Sabbath day. And these spirits are like, they live monsters. They are among us in the knowledge, in the quote, work of the Most High. And they read these last three scriptures that we read. Mark chapter 2, verses 23 through 28, Luke chapter 6, verses 1 through 11, and Matthew chapter 12, verses 1 through 13. They ain't read that, and they got decades decades and decades in this work, and they're still running around from camp to camp and location, nitpicking and see who's following the Sabbath. When these guys is 50, my age and older, and haven't made the commitment, by this time you would have think, let me say this, you gotta be, I don't know, man, maybe I shouldn't say it. I'm gonna put it like this. It's very challenging. It is a very challenging feat to accomplish the following dynamic. To have had this knowledge for 40, 30, 25, even 20, 15 years and have not been drawn into the work to the point where you live the gospel now. That's a challenging thing to do, to be able to, I applaud them dudes to be able to do that, to be able to have had the truth this long, and you've been in this decade, and you mean to tell me the gospel is not your source of existence? But you walk around nitpicking those whose lifestyle is such that the gospel is their only form of existence. And you can find that in the scriptures. It said, just like in the old days, they that worked in the temple, they lived off of the altar. Paul says, so we that are the apostles of the gospel, we live off the gospel. Most of the time we want to split time with Esau. So to me, all of these things say something to me about your faith. Says something to me about, do you really believe this word? Now, I ain't judging them, but I'm saying, because these are the people that come in and nitpick a congregation who consist of men and women whose whole life revolve around this and serving each other only, literally, while theirs is just a day or two of the week delegated to that. And this is what it was right here. The apostles, Christ himself, the whole purpose was what? Serving Israel. While the priests had their dynamic had evolved just to what? And this is what Christ goes into in Matthew chapter 23. They were hypocrites, and their whole existence their whole purpose, they have converted the purpose of their priesthood to self enrichment. Simple and plain. And so you got brothers for years, for decades, that have been taking a comfortable position with the gospel. Because they don't believe like they think they do. I don't put it like that. They don't believe like they think they do. And in my estimation, they don't believe like I know you do. Because brothers say, okay, well, listen. And then that means you have to adapt to a certain lifestyle. You have to adapt to what the Gospels and the letters of Paul describe as a humble life, as an austere life. That's how Christ put it. Living severely simple, being severely moral, having to execute on a daily basis severe discipline. That ain't no easy thing to say, we got a business that's been running for about 28 years now. That's almost 3 decades. And reconfiguring the commercial aspect of the camp that really be the platform upon which it's built. When I say platform, meaning that's what provides. That's what keeps the lights on. The schools come into jeopardy. You got brothers that'll come in, nitpick, but they won't do nothing to keep you from losing the school. And I mean, like I said, this is from within y'all too. They be questioning the brotherhood. They be questioning the head. They be questioning the people in charge. But when we was getting put out, what did you do to keep us from getting out?
Yeah.
What did you do to help get us another place? Nothing. Just sit back and wait until it pop up, and then I'll come to class, maybe. And when I do, I'm gonna come and nitpick. I'm gonna come and backbite. You understand? That's why I said the most brother, they can't tell me nothing. Because the Most High honors those that do good every day. So, moving on, let's deal with a little bit more practicality now and show how. First, let's open up with this verse. Let's go to Ecclesiastes in the Bible. You guys know this one too, chapter 7 and verse 16. And then I'm going to give we're going to read an episode in our history where this turned out to be the case. So I used to ask myself that question. Well, let's read the scripture first. Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 7 and verse 16.
Oh, be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself?
And I used to say, how could being as wise as you could be, fighting to be as righteous as you could be, result in your destruction? Then I went to what? To First Maccabees, chapter 2. And the Most High answered that question. Go to First Maccabees, chapter 2, and we're going to read verses 27 all the way down to 41. Now, this happened in the height of what? I'm going to put it like this. It wasn't the height of it. It was more like the beginning. In the initial stages of the Hellenization campaign that Antiochus Epiphanes, right from the Seleucid dynasty, he was one of the great grandsons of the general Seleucid that conquered and rode with Alexander of Macedonia. And Mattathias, one of our forefathers from the tribe of Levi, decided, you know what, we ain't doing this. So read that on me as I start off with he go up, he went to the person. There was an official that was sent by the Greeks to go to all the cities of Judah to make sure he was supposed to preside over the enforcing of the decree that everyone had to come and alter and offer to this idol and then eat the pork that was being offered. And so what did he do? He went and killed the Israelite that was the first to go and do it, slew him, and then slew the officer who was commissioned to make sure it was done. Then the next words are his course of action. So start off at verse 27 on the Yetzirah.
And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains, and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them.
Right.
Now when it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem, in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandments were gone down into the secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day.
Oh, here we are. We're on the Sabbath day. We get
Very
ready
smart.
to have, huh?
Very, very clever of them.
Yeah, very clever, because they know they can coming up against some of these camps. Go ahead.
Verse 33. And they said unto them, let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live.
Okay, let's listen. All you guys improved your point. You done did that. Let's let it stop here. Everybody come back down. Do the king's commandment and you'll live. That means what? You got to offer to these idols and you got to eat the pork and you'll live. We'll just consider that, a cultural clash. Go ahead.
Verse 34. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit, they answered them not.
That means they was firing shots at, arrows and, and he says we wouldn't answer them, meaning we wouldn't throw stone, we wouldn't retaliate. Why? Gonna tell you, because it was the Sabbath. Go ahead.
Verse 36. Howbeit, they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid.
They didn't even bother to block the passages where they was high. Why? Because that's work. And today's the Sabbath. So we're hiding, but we're not hiding because they can see us. We haven't blocked the entrances. We haven't stopped up the places. No, don't you pick up that stone. Remember old boy that was picking up sticks? Go ahead.
Verse 37. But said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth shall testify for us that ye put us to death wrongfully. So they rose up.
Greeks wasn't about to hear that.
Exactly.
We just conquered the whole known world. We give a damn about you people up here in the cave being innocent. Go ahead.
Verse 38. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people. Now when Mattathias and his friends understood thereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth.
Now stop. What were they doing though? They were being righteous. They were showing the Most High in the most extreme case, they're not going to deviate from that Sabbath law. This is wisdom. And guess what happened? They were destroyed. That's a perfect example of be not righteous over much, neither make thyself overwise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself?
Perfect.
So go ahead and stop doing what you do on the Sabbath. All things that are not, quote, just sitting in the school learning. And let's see how the bills begin to pile up on you. Just saying, because that's why Christ said it's okay to do what on the Sabbath. So that means your contribution on the Sabbath be going to what? The maintaining of school. Period, point blank. That's not, listen, that's no discussion. And the Most High is honoring it. Let me say this. We've been working on the Sabbath since we got there. And the only time the Most High destroyed the school or made the school not profitable, including on the Sabbath, was when men came through there, took over the stewardship and did evil. That's why. That's why. He didn't say, you know what, this gotta stop on the Sabbath. They got 5 malls, they got 2 flea marts. This is ridiculous. And look what they done did. They had a nerve to buy a school on Guadalupe. How dare they? They have the nerve to turn around and get a place on Glenview for the men to live. How dare they do good on the Sabbath? Because that's what it goes to. And then the Most High didn't do that. What he did was, how dare they commit adultery? How dare they misallocate the blessing that I blessed for the camp to be spread to all the families? And how dare he do this for himself only? That's what the Most High bring the school into what? Into let's say the prosperity and what he blesses us with to a screeching halt. When the right thing isn't being done, when evil is being performed, when men are not being developed to the Most High's pleasure, when people are being pacified, when people are getting a horrible example of what it is to give your life to Christ. That's when the Most High said, God, what happened when we were there? What happened when I was there? Most High was pissed off because there was no fairness, there was no justice, there was no equity. And people were doing things above us out of greed. That's why he did. That's why he brought the camp to a screeching halt. And then the minute, even through a mistake, or my mistake, that resulted in the breaking up and separate dividing of 5 camps into various reconfigurations. Out of all of that, the Most High still saw that what? That we were doing what we were trained to do, and and the outcome is what showed us that things had to be done different. And this is why Texas has been surviving since 1992, and other brothers from our very same circle have told me with their own mouth, I'm never going through that again. I'm going to go through this 1,000,000 times more, because look at the power you get. Look at the virtue you get. Not understanding that what? That the Most High be about treating. Now, then this is another thing. So while we're dealing with it, he said it's well to do good on the Sabbath, right? What do we find out here? Look what happened. That means self-preservation is considered well to the Most High. But it took that for them to come to that conclusion. Read that final verse on me. Read verse 40 again.
Hey, Carl, just want to say something.
Yeah.
You just dropped something that I think that went up, that's gone above so many people's heads. Like when you just mentioned about, you'd be willing to do this, over and over again because of the virtue that you get, the power that you get. But many of these people, they've never submitted themselves. And so they don't even know. They've never really truly experienced the power and the virtue that you get. You know,
Why the teaching be so boring and dry? I don't name no names.
Exactly, but only someone that has never truly experienced, the virtue and the power of the Most High will ever say that, I will not go through that again. Because really and truly, as an Israelite, and this is one thing that always amazes me. Like, I look at even when we had the business, and it really just shows, that we are in captivity, but also the Most High's mercy. How, because it's funny because people in the world will say how much harder blacks or Israelites have to work to to get what Esau gets, right? And it's always amazed me how literally Esau can do so much stuff, so much negative stuff, like abuse himself with drugs, and it doesn't affect him. When the Israelite does it, you're getting hurt. Bad things are happening. But also even with myself, I always wonder the amount of work that I have to put in the spirit, just like the level of introspection, the level of just putting the Most High first. I'm saying to just to get like minor blessings, and I'm seeing people in the world, and I often say to the Most High, these people aren't even trying to serve you. These people aren't even trying to honor you. But the thing is, one thing I had to humble myself and just remind myself that's the Most High showing me really how just worthless you are. How I'm saying how incompetent you are. But then when you look into me, now I put that spirit upon you. I give you that virtue. I give you that power. Now that you know you excel above the people in the world. Right. I'm saying. Whereas without the Most High, and this is one thing I've experienced myself. Without the Most, I am truly nothing. Without the Most High,
I say this all day, every day. We are nothing, and the Most High Yahweh Shai is everything. And that's
honestly,
it'd be the wrong spirit that just to be a teacher, to be a steward. I'm gonna call us what Christ called us, to be servants and stewards, and to allow a congregation to acquire such an admiration for yourself where they don't, where now they can't check you. When I say check you, I don't mean come out and check you. I'm talking about they can't see. The scriptures tell you an eloquent man is known far and near, right? It says, but a man of wisdom knoweth when he slippeth. People think that's talking about the man of wisdom knowing when he slipped. No, it's saying the man of wisdom know when the eloquent man is slipping. And so Israel, we won't assume our proper mentality. We're proud as hell, man. We're proud because the scriptures say knowledge puffeth up, and we're proud because we have the knowledge. And in our pride, we go and start pontificating. And it's all designed to say you're not on our level. They don't say those words. Some of them do. But they don't say that, but they'll say, you what? You don't honor the Sabbath? Well, I do. Well, nigga, you don't pay nobody else's rent. You don't put food on other people's tables. And if you do, you ain't sitting out there doing it in the heat of the day yourself. Yeah, everybody's you can go out and get you an eye. What do they call them things out, y'all? They sound like something off of Star Wars, but it's a non-profit status.
NGO?
No, it's in the States. It's the church thing, the 501c3, whatever that is. And brothers, they'll go out and do that with the intention of what? Of having a money-making thing and not having to pay taxes. But you know why I don't cleave to that? Because that ain't what Christ did. Christ paid his taxes. That was the miracle of it all. That you were under this yoke and the Most High was with you, and I didn't have to create or take advantage of something that was offered to be able to not have to do that because I do this. But now I got all these other circumstances, all these other conditions that I got to meet. But we had, the school down here was rolling in so much money that our account would be like, listen, we got to talk to y'all. You're paying too much, and we want to set this up. I'm like, listen, it's there to pay it. Because the Most High was blessing us. And the minute I start doing things, even under the loopholes provided, I ain't in that loophole class. What did Christ say? Christ said, you render to Caesar that which is Caesar's. Caesar want his money, Caesar get his money. And that was the reason why the Most High sent us to Babylon. You guys got to go and you got to read Baruch chapter 2. And you're going to find out the Most High gave us an opportunity to stay in the land and serve the king of Babylon through tribute, paying him taxes. And we didn't. In order to escape the yoke of him, we made an alliance with the king of Egypt and started paying him. But obviously the king of Egypt wasn't asking as much as the king of Babylon. So the Most High sent Nebuchadnezzar to level us, because we wouldn't serve and we wouldn't what? And we wouldn't commit or honor the conditions that we swore in the name of the Most High to the king of Babylon. So when the Most High is about your ass serving, you better serve.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what brothers don't get. All of the whole Kawakab movement, the Most High ain't with that. Well, are you with your children? You punish your children, and they do everything they possibly can to circumvent your punishment. They go to your uncle, your brother, their uncle, and be trying to, Daddy did this to me. Mama said I can't have this. Or they go to your grandparents. I be done told my own mother or father, these is my kids. Now get your ass over there and do what I told you to do. And just for that, you lose even more. Because that's what the Most High be doing to us. What do you think voting is? What do you think marching and all of these so-called civil rights movement is? We're trying to assuage or diminish or to what? To cause to cease the conditions of our punishment. And that ain't what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be coming back to the Heavenly Father and obeying. And contriteness in this realm begins with what? It begins with assuming the punishment that was levied on you. So here we are fighting or executing judgment status over other people's work that we haven't put one day in. Right? That's why, and listen, that's why it's in one of Paul's letters. He says, and why judgest thou another man's servant? I said, them schools are not, they didn't get called by me. That's why I don't be in nobody's business. I don't care what they do.
Exactly.
We all gonna answer to the Most High. But going back to doing well, I want you to finish that verse. Go read verse 40 and verse 41, because I want to go into defining what well is. Because he said it's okay to do, it's lawful to do well on the Sabbath. Go ahead,
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, First Maccabees chapter 2.
And verse 40. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth.
Go ahead.
At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places.
So what were they forced to do? By the dead blood, by the blood of their fallen comrades, the blood of their brothers and their wives and their children. They were forced to think more practically. That was now do me a favor. Somebody look up in the dictionary, practical. You might see a synonym that says pragmatic, but it just means the same thing, but it's a little sharper word to use. But look up practical.
While they're getting that, just touching on, what you just said about Israel being proud. Not only is Israel proud, Israel's content with mediocrity. A lot of Israelites, as far as I'm concerned, have all they've done, they've just converted from Christianity to Israel. They've just in terms of the doctrine, but it's still the same mindset. Just like people like criticize the Christians for judging and being self-righteous. That's what's going on in Israel today. Like I said, not submitting, not committing themselves to the work, to the Most High, and truly getting that power. Whereas they'll sit there overweight, lazy.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, what do you mean, brother? Ain't nobody's generally speaking, you about to have a heart attack. Running around here looking like the type 2 crew. I call them the type 2 crew because everybody look like they got type 2 diabetes. So read that. Whoever got the definition of practical, read it. I need for you to read it loud so that we can hear it and that that it can be okay on the stream.
Yeah, I know. Practical. 1828. It says capable of practice or active use.
Listen, capable of applicable. What does it say? Active or applicable?
Yeah. Capable of practice or active, being active.
Okay.
Active use.
In other words, stop. Can you practice this? You understand? Is this something that you can put and make active? So that's what practicality is. So in the middle of a war, is it practical? Can you use honoring the Sabbath as a strategy? You can't use that. Go ahead, because the system wanted practical use. Now, go ahead, Daliad.
It says opposed to speculative.
Say that again.
Is capable of practice or active use, opposed to speculative.
Opposed, listen, this is called opposed to speculative. Speculative means I suppose we could do this. I suppose if we show them that we're really into our God and we don't fight on the Sabbath, that they'll honor that. That's speculative. That means you're speculating, and that can't be guaranteed. But another approach is more practical, meaning this one can be put into action or can be applied. So, yes, go ahead.
One more. It says early 15th century. It says practical. It says pertaining to matters of action.
Hold on. Say that again.
Pertaining to matters of action.
Pertaining to matters of action. That's practical because you know why? Because the root word is practice. Practice, to do. To practice. Practical. Can be done. So, can the school can we maintain the growth that we're on and the building that we're on, and even if we weren't building, let's say we went into mediocre mode, and all we wanted to do was just sustain what the Most High have blessed the work of our hands with. Could we do that completely eliminating the Sabbath, or in other words, making it reconfiguring our dynamic to where all we do on the Sabbath are the things at the school? Do y'all be having moving things on Saturday out?
Done.
All right. You understand? Are we in the malls on Saturdays?
Done.
So could we effectively keep our school open, keep the families being fed, keep housing men at the brother's house, keep all of the bills paid, the utilities paid? Could we do that, eliminating the Sabbath day, Saturday out of our dynamic?
No.
All right. That means that's not practical. That means you can't have success putting that into practice. Now I'm going to show you. It says it is legal or lawful, I keep using the word legal, to do well on the Sabbath. So let's go to Matthew chapter 25 and let's define what well is. Matthew chapter 25. It's like going to be the second half of the chapter. I think it's going to be chapter verse 29 or 30, when the Son of Man cometh in the great glory with the holy angels and all of that, right?
Verse 31.
Go ahead.
When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.
Now these are the people being accepted into the kingdom of Yahushua. Go ahead.
Verse 35. For I was an hungered, and you gave me meat.
So how many of these brothers that won't do anything on the Sabbath feed brothers. How much of their work results? Then their sacrifice. I ain't talking about no 501c3. I'm talking about their sweat and toil, what they suffered, what they lost, while paying taxes to Caesar. And I don't knock that. I'm just saying, we're going off of what Christ said. Christ said, pay Caesar his taxes. I'm going to pay Caesar his taxes. Then what do the Most High want? Because rendering to Caesar the things of Caesar, rendering to the Most High the things he wants. We're reading what the Most High is telling us he wants. He said, because you fed me when I was hungry. Go ahead.
Verse 35. For I was hungered, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me.
Now stop right there. I was a hunger when you took me in. I was a hungry, you fed me. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger, you took me in. And so people will use that as a that whole, whatever you call them things, man. What is it called? The charities. And think that because they're doing that and they don't have to do something on the Sabbath, that they're being more honorable. But I'm going to tell you something. Who is Christ wanting you to do that to? He's going to tell you. That's why, brothers, I never put a whole lot of, like if I do charity, first of all, I do charity to brothers and sisters in Israel. And then I'll see some people out and about. If they're in need and I have it, I'll help how I can. But they're not my priority. I'm not going to go and open up no foundation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit there and teach everybody that I possibly can. I'm going to do just what Peter said. Silver and gold have I not, but such as I have, give I thee. Come over and hear this word about Christ, why we're suffering the way we are. Do you really want to get out of this condition? Come on over to the house, man. I'll have a meal for you. You come every Tuesday, every Thursday, you get fed. We'll give you the bus money to get there. We'll give you the bus money back. When you need money to get home to, that's what we do. But we don't have no foundation. We don't, because then that pulls me away from the congregation. And then that's just because I know that I could be in that position. But I'm going to show you which of the two weighs more in the eyes of Christ. And then when we find out which of the two weighs more in the eyes of Christ, then what? Then we got to say, well, how is this being done? And it's being done 7 days a week, including the Sabbath. That's well doing. Continue to read, huh?
36. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee?
Yeah, they're like, we're missing something, man. When did we do all of that stuff with you? Sitting before Christ, Christ is on his throne. I really don't recall doing that for you. But watch, so when did we do that? Go ahead.
And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me.
Oh, so now we want to get detailed, huh? You want to get technical. It says, if you've done this for the least of these my brethren, you've done it to me. So now we have to define brethren. So let's go to Matthew. Matthew, I think it's going to be chapter 12. If it's not, I'll find it. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 12, and we're going to read at verse 46 all the way down to 50. So this shows you the Most High expect for us to target these efforts. Read that, Matthew chapter 12, verses 46 to the end.
While he yet talked to the people, behold, his mother and his brethren stood without, desiring to speak with him. Then one said unto him, Behold, thy mother and thy brethren stand without, desiring to speak with thee.
Yeah, your mother, Mary, and your 4 brothers, which are also named in the Gospels, and your sisters. Go ahead.
Verse 48. But he answered and said unto him that told him, Who is my mother? And who are my brethren?
Yeah, who is my mother? He said this about everybody. Christ is, it says while he was talking, somebody let him, your family out there want to talk to you. Who is my family? Who is my mother? Who are my brothers? Who are my sisters? Go ahead.
Verse 49. And he stretched forth his hand toward his disciples.
This is
and said,
he made a gesture in the sight of the congregation that he was ministering to toward his apostles, toward his disciples. He said, these are my brothers. Go ahead.
Verse 49. And he stretched forth his hand toward his disciples and said, behold my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father, which is in heaven, the same is my brother and sister and mother.
So brother is not just this loose term that you throw around. The brothers that Christ is referring to in Matthew 25, that he's going to say, man, you fed me when I was hungry. You gave me to drink when I was thirsty. You clothed me when I was naked. You took me in when I was a stranger. You didn't even know me. You come over here and move in this place. When did we do that for you? You did this to these, the least my brethren. That means those people, those brothers, all of those members, those men and women and children that came to me in the work, that believed in my word and began to do it. You did that to them, you're doing it to me. And that, listen, now to prove that he's not, the other don't mean nothing to him, you go to, where's that at where it says, cast not thy pearls before swine? Let me get it. It's in Matthew.
Matthew 5.
Yeah, it might be. Let me see it. Okay, go to chapter 7, Matthew chapter 7. And we're going to read verse 6. Matthew chapter 7 and verse 6.
Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine.
Stop right there. Why is he saying that? See, people, they say the dogs and then the swine. And so we automatically assume it's talking about Esau. But he's using an analogy. Remember, he's speaking in parables. So first and foremost, when he says, give not that which is holy into the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, he's talking about what he was giving us was his word. What he was giving us was the way to treat each other. What he was giving us, Christ, was what? A treasure. When exercised properly, we would be preserved by one another until he come back. He said, don't give that to what? To swine. He's talking about those that won't come to him. And I'm gonna prove that. He's talking about those, he just showed us all of Israel, out of all Israel, those that come and do the will of my Father are my brother, are my sisters, are my mother. That's what he said. That's why people don't get it. When he's on the cross and he looked down at John, and he looked at John and he said, behold thy mother. He looked at his mother and said, behold thy son. He was commending both of them to one another's care. I'm going, you guys got to take care of each other now. He's your son now. She's your mother now. That's what he was doing. But what did he say in his parable to those Israelites that wouldn't have him rule? He said, but those mine enemies, which would not that I would rule over them, bring hither and slay them before me. He's not talking about Esau. He's talking about Israel. He's talking about all those Pharisees, everybody that rejected him and that said, you'll never rule over us. He's not our king. Caesar is our king. So, brother is specifically talking about those that would continue to be that those that come into the work and do it. And then he's going to tell you why. Because we didn't have brothers come down here and try to hustle us and use our benevolence. One brother from Mexico, one brother from Nicaragua, one brother from Panama. And you end up, you see what they are, you're always going to be brother with them, but they no longer get that no more. They no longer get that why? Because they abuse you through it. They take advantage of you. And that's what he's going to show you. So this is what he's telling us. That's why I said, you're the work of the Most High. Until a person comes to school, he become the work of the Most High. Now I'm working on his mind. But the more of him he gives, the more I'm responsible for. He won't commit. He done lost his job. Daddy done kicked him out. He want to come and just live up, but he don't want to integrate into the workforce. Well, I can't even help him. Why? Because he won't put himself in the circumstance that allows us to build him, to make him, to help him make himself stronger. And so all of this is the good, is the well that you guys are doing, and it includes that you exhaust your energy and these and the work on the Sabbath. And not only because we are in captivity. Oh, when these brothers come and say that's no excuse, well, I mean, get out of my face with that. Because if it's going to apply to one law, then it's going to apply to all of them. Then you could go out and start doing what the Most High said do to homos. You can go out and do what the Most High said do the adulterers, male and female. Go up to the club and have at it. Let me see you do that. Let me see you follow the law. Walk up on somebody doing tarot cards, Venice Beach or wherever, reading people's palms, set them on fire, because that's what the Lord said.
Said kills witches too, huh?
That's what I'm saying, huh? But you ain't doing that. Why? Because we're in captivity and we don't have the authority. And he shut the hell up. This is being over righteous when it comes to you. Weekend warrior type 2 generals and captains and priests and bishops. You know what I am? I'm a slave. I'm a servant. I'm gonna stay that until Christ come and get me. Y'all know I don't let nobody sit up here and try to I don't know, blow my head up. Because the truth of the matter is it's all about y'all. That's what Christ is showing us right here. That's why we read Matthew chapter 25. We only went to the other places so we could clearly define what brother means. When you did these things to the least of these, my brethren. And so that means, and that's why it was such a big blow under Barnabas' stewardship that we would end up losing the school, losing everything that brothers sacrificed. But you know what? It was time for that. Why? Because that whole crew, that which was salvable from that whole crew, everything out of that left. Literally. All the other, I'm not saying they left the Most High. I'm just saying that they didn't stick with this. So the Most High brought this brother in, gave him an opportunity, eventually through his own works, rooted him out so that you guys could be in the position to have to build from scratch again. Because that's what happened to myself. Had to come there and build from scratch again. And in order to do that, hell, we worked all day, every day. Come on, y'all. A war will tell you. And then when you went, and let me say this, and when we did it anyway, other than that, look what it's come to. We lost everything. That's the reality. When we deviated from the hard work, when we placated men, when we pacified men, when we didn't push men to be the best that they could be in Christ, when we didn't really live the life that demonstrated to them, I can do all things through Christ that strengthened me. If we didn't do that, we lost everything, and we did. Which includes the Sabbath. Let me, brothers, being all over holy. Read on down, like what verse we at?
Verse 6 of Matthew chapter 7.
Read it from the top again.
Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you.
Now, you hear that? That's showing you what? That you begin to exercise these benevolent qualities and demonstrate these benevolences to what? To people that haven't come to Christ. To men and women who haven't come and shown themselves, they won't even give Christ enough time to just for them to study. And you go and you make those concessions with them, you'll end up being taken advantage of. But for those that do come, those that the doors of the school are always going to be open. This is one of the reasons why even my brothers that I've come up under, brothers that I've come up with my peer, and brothers that have come up with me under me concerning years and time, I don't have a whole lot to do with a lot of people in Israel because I'm too busy. They trying to nitpick their thing, but at the same time, I don't have no time for them who won't assume responsibility for anything. You got men among us that just won't take the next level, feel like they're being mistreated or passed by. Yes, you are being bypassed, but you're the one that bypassed by not taking the next step. The people that end up on that podium and that end up in these key positions have to be, through the Spirit, strategically exercised in those positions, or else nothing will get built. If a war right now if no one had made it a point, say, okay, it's a rough thing. I'm gonna take on this mantle after the disarray that the body was left in after Barnabas. Then who was gonna do it? Let me ask you that question. Because these be the issues. Brothers will come up and talk about the Sabbath, but they won't even talk about, they won't even, like I said, let me say this, I got an idea. They won't even say that. What do you think about this? And so here we are making sure that what? That there's always going to be a place for people to come and get taught. And among those that come, the Spirit is going to touch people that what? Men and women that are sincere. That's why the scriptures say, like, you be nitpicking, the scriptures tell you about you too. The scriptures say, to the pure, all things are pure, but to the defiled and unbelieving, nothing is pure. That means something didn't happen to you and your outlook is now sour. It's not us, it's you. And I'll be telling them that. It's you. You're the one that came in so many 100 years ago and never wanted to make a decision, never wanted to be put in a position where you have to make a decision that you have to answer to. But you don't nitpick everybody else that do, all the way down to the Sabbath. And they're everywhere, brother. They're all over the place. So let's do this. Let's go into that mode now. Since I'm talking about that, let's go into the mode of all of the nitpicking. Y'all didn't think that was in there, but we're going to go there. Israel been nitpicking from the time of Adam. I should say Adam. Then after the flood, Israel. That's what murmuring is. What do you think murmuring is? You're behind Moses' back, talking and scrutinizing and not satisfied with how he's doing things, till the ground open up and swallow you up. That's what happened until the decree is given to hang 23,000 of you. Read Matthew, go to Mark chapter 3. We're going to deal with all of these occasions. Now, let's do this. Let's start off in Luke chapter 13. Luke chapter 13, verses 11 through 17. It's kind of brief, but all of these next verses, they all do revolve around the Sabbath, but the nature of these is not so much clearing up the issue, because we already found out that it's good. It is lawful to do good on the Sabbath, or it's lawful to do well on the Sabbath. So these are just designed to demonstrate to us our inclination to just nitpick. Our inclination to just always try to find fault in the good when we won't come in and fill in, then you do it. So Luke chapter 13, verses 17 through verses 11 through 17. Read that.
And behold, there was a woman which had a spirit of infirmity 18 years, and was bowed together and could in no wise lift up herself.
So imagine being bowed over for 18 years. Some type of osteo problem with her bones. Go ahead.
And when Yahushua saw her, he called her to him and said unto her, Woman, thou art loosed from thine infirmity. And he laid his hands on her, and immediately she was made straight and glorified the Most High. And the ruler of the synagogue answered with indignation, because that Yahushua had healed on the Sabbath day, and said unto her,
listen, and the ruler of the synagogue had to have known this lady for 18 years. How merciless can you be? That's why I said it would have been good to be able to go through this book and read, and then Lord in that instant smote them. Where they begged, and he was doubled over, and he begged to be healed. It was excruciating, no, so that he could know the pain she was in. Guaranteed that the Most High did that, he would have begged to be healed then. He wouldn't have said, well, I can wait till tomorrow. Especially after seeing the lady get healed. But it says this dude was, read the spirit he was in. Read that again.
And the ruler of the synagogue answered with indignation.
Indignation. Now, indignation is supposed to be righteous anger. So this is the spirit he's coming from. That he's not going to rejoice to see a woman that was healed that he know was doubled over like that and in pain for 18 years. Go ahead.
Because that Yahushua had healed on the Sabbath day, and said unto the people, there are 6 days in which men ought to work. In them, therefore, come and be healed, and not on the Sabbath day.
He's telling the lady, you come on the days where we can work. Imagine going to the emergency room and they tell you to come back tomorrow. Ain't this the emergency room? You got a laceration going down your wrist. Something that happened, glass broke, you fighting with your woman, you give my secrets away. Punching through doors and bust up your whole hand. I had to go to the hospital for that. Bang! Took a steel door off, messed up my hand, turned around, the door fell and knocked me out. It was one of them comical things, man, where the Most High said, anger rested in the bosom of a fool. Bro, that's the truth. I'm probably just now recovering from that concussion. Go ahead, I'll keep on reading.
Verse 15. The Lord then answered him and said, thou hypocrite, doth not each one of you on the Sabbath loose his ox or his ass from the stall and lead him away to watering?
See that? I wouldn't call them hypocrites. You can't tell me because I know you. You guys, each one of you take your animals and you loose them away on the Sabbath and you lead them away to be able to get water. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And ought not this woman, being a daughter of Abraham, who Satan have bound, lo, these 18 years, be loosed from this bond on the Sabbath day?
You hear that? You loose your animals on the Sabbath just to get water. And you know good and well, this woman, being a daughter of Abraham, should be loosed after 18 years on the Sabbath. Brother, now, that's what I said. Now, my question is, all of these people that be coming through or that be having these issues with the Sabbath, what book are they reading? The Quran? Or are they reading the book of Enoch? Because this is like, this makes it clear for us because this equips us to be able to what? To operate in the spirit of the Most High in Christ in captivity, free, without stress. We're not supposed to be, we come back to the Most High. We're not supposed to be coming back to the Most High with this under bondage or fear. We are not in control. So we execute the work of the Most High to the greatest of our ability in the configuration that's given to us. We don't run this, we don't control society. Remember, we forfeited the right to that. We had our own society. The Most High laid it out for us. But now that we're here, we're fighting to work our way back to him. Is there more on Yetazar?
We're in verse 17, right?
Go ahead, yes.
And when he had said these things, all his adversaries were ashamed, and all the people rejoiced for all the glorious things that were done by him.
See that? They should have been ashamed. Because you know what it took? It took them being outed and exposed that they care more about their animals than the flock of Israel that the Most High placed them as caretakers over. That's why they were ashamed, rightfully so. And the fact that they were ashamed is the only demonstration that they could have been that they're salvageable. So, the practicality in our zone, in our circumstance, is literally why we do what we do. Why do we work on the Sabbath? And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say we have to. We don't have to. We can let that day go and then everything could come crashing down. Good. And then brothers will literally not have anything to replace it with. That's how it literally would be. The next question would be, but are you honoring the Sabbath? Not knowing that we also have class on the Sabbath in the school that we just lost. So that was Luke. Go from there now. I'm going to get to Mark chapter 3. We're going to read verses 2 through 5. These are all circumstances where Israel was being nitpicky.
Mark chapter 3.
But not just nitpicky, hypocritically so.
What verse do you want?
Mark chapter 3, verses 2 through 5. You can
And they
start
watched.
off at verse 1 through 5.
Okay. And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand. And they watched him whether he would heal him on the Sabbath day, that they might accuse.
That means they know the guy need to be healed. They know that they can't do it. He's there, Christ is there, and their only thing is what? Let's see if he's gonna heal him. What kind of hatred for your people is that? Go ahead.
Verse 3. And he saith unto the man which had the withered hand, stand forth. And he saith unto them, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath days, or to do evil, to save life, or to kill? But they held their peace. And when he had looked round about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he saith unto the man, stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other.
Beautiful. On the Sabbath, and how they just mad and angry and hateful. This is who we live amongst, y'all. You know? And that's why I be telling brothers, man, everybody, I say brothers, but I mean the congregation, period, is you have to stick with the wholesome sources, the sources that help you grow in the truth. You have to stick with the sources that help you to mature in the truth. When you start hearing all of these different aspects being brought that they're not teaching, but they're stirring up this, and that's why the scriptures say the topics and questions that bring about strife. He says, avoid those, you know? So you're supposed to be able to and know to eliminate. What I do, I eliminate. There's certain people I love, but I don't talk to them at all. Why? Because I'm not their judge. Because they didn't get hired by me. The one who did hire us all is going to judge us all. He's going to correct us all. He's going to chastise us all. Then I pray to the Most High that all of us be there and he crown us. That's what we want. But stay out of my way. Because I'm making a point to avoid all these other cats. You don't call. I ain't got nothing to say. I'm busy. And I ain't lying. You know, but what am I going to do when brother says, you ain't of the ISUPK? Well, you come out of UPK. Yeah, but I ain't spreading the UPK. I ain't spreading the UPK. I'm not about to go and put bandanas on that say One West, a place I ain't at, a damn address. A damn address in Harlem. I'm not going to put Western Boulevard. I'm not going to put, you know, whatever the street that is. I don't know what street y'all on now. Guadalupe. I'm still back in the Guadalupe days. Y'all know that. Shoot. I don't know what address the school is, but I'm not going to put no street address. The Most High said, ye that have escaped the sword, look, let Jerusalem enter into your mind. I ain't think about no street. And nowhere in America that's going to be burning pretty soon. So it's like, it's too many things, brother. You know, brothers be trying to take the scriptures and use their mind to alter them. Well, it's not the time for two wives. Well, nigga, maybe not for you. But then you see everything else, all they do is worship women. It's ridiculous. They're bringing Israel, the Israelite men, they're neutering the men more than Esau did in the spirit. Then they're turning around and turning their women into monsters that they call queens. Ain't no queens in Israel. We ain't even kings. How do you know you're going to be the one that's going to be the king and the priest? And that's why Paul said it. He says, you are all co-workers. We're nothing. We're all co-workers, co-laborers in the work. This is the Most High's vineyard. Brothers already chose their crown. So you're going to what? Did I call out the verse already?
No.
Did you finish that one?
Yeah.
Go to John chapter 5. You're getting nitpicky. John chapter 5, verses 1 through 16. This is another man that suffered a long-term illness.
Hmm. John chapter 5, verse 1. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Yahushua went up to Jerusalem. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of important folk, of blind, halt.
Does it say impotent or important?
Sorry, impotent.
Right.
I was like, how are blind people important? It's like, I must have read that wrong. Verse 3.
I was like, wait a minute now. Look.
In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first after the troubling of the water stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had.
This is where the Christians get that song, Wade in the Water, right? God's going to trouble the water. And then these 3 homos named Tony, Tony, and Tony came and took the song, took the melody and turned it into Hey Little Walter. I don't know if y'all remember that back in the day. But no, our people made these old hymnals about the scriptures. So it was wade in the water, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, God's going to trouble the waters. Because they would have to see the water move, and whoever would get in could get healed. So this is the challenge that a lot of these sick, blind, lame people that just were had these long-term infirmities were always just waiting. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. When Yahushua saw him lie and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he saith unto him, wilt thou be made whole?
How many years did it say?
38.
Man, that's a long time. 40, almost 40 years, man. Go ahead.
Verse 7. The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me into the pool. But while I am coming, another steppeth down before me. Yahushua saith unto him, Rise, take up thy bed and walk.
Man, that's cool. I should say get him walk. But hold on, what day is this, huh?
Verse 9. And immediately the man was made whole and took up his bed and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath.
Now listen to this. How blind, because this is what happened every week. The Most High was already doing that work on the Sabbath. This is the day that they would come and wait for the water to move, on the Sabbath. Think about that. I'll show you how blind the Pharisees were. This was a phenomenon that every Sabbath the people would come out and wait for the angel to trouble the water. The Sabbath, where they could get healed. But then they're going to turn around because the man couldn't make it and Christ healed him. Something that if he had it done, he would have got healed anyway. They're going to be mad at Christ. It shows you that, and that goes to show you the nitpickiness and the hypocrisy in Israel. It gets to the point where it don't even make sense to itself. They don't even step back and see the ludicrous in them. Because it's the Sabbath. The angel will come and move the water. The guy's sitting there waiting on the Sabbath to get healed. Christ says, you ain't got to get in the water. Here you go, bang. So they're going to be so nitpicky as they're going to say, well, what you doing carrying your bed on the Sabbath? Not, wow, he's walking. Remember, the dude was like this for 38 years. And instead of saying, my God, is this old boy that used to be at the pool? That we used to make bets to see if he was going to get in this time? That's probably what the wicked-ass Pharisees was doing. I got 5 pence that say he make it. I'll raise you that one and see this one. Go ahead.
Verse 10. The Jews therefore said unto him that was cured, It is the Sabbath day. It is not lawful for thee to carry thy bed.
Yeah, look at that. just gonna ignore the miracle. What you doing carrying your bed? I would be like, what the hell are you doing walking? Where? Who did that? It is not lawful for you to carry your bed. And let me say this, they live, they're among us. All the little scary movie titles, they live, they're among us. This is the Niggerites, man. Go ahead.
Verse 11, he answered them, he that made me whole, the same said unto me, take up thy bed and walk. Then asked they him, what man is that which said unto thee, take up thy bed and walk? And he that was healed
So
wist not.
listen, first they tell him about the bed, then they asking about the man. They're totally ignoring that a miracle just took place after 38 years of this man's life. Like as if it didn't even happen. As if he came out of his house with a bed carrying it. As if he was bunking in the temple and just walked out the temple with the bed. Like no miracle, nothing. Continue.
Verse 13.
Why do I emphasize that? Because this is how these spirits be out there, be right around you, watching the miracles unfold over the decades, over the years. And they just, but they be so fixated on their own evil. They be so fixated on their own sloth. They be so fixated on their own unimportance.
The envy.
Envy. They done slid into obsolescence. They're no longer needed, and the Most High is showing them that. Instead of just saying, let me get needed again. Let me get up in here. Get mine in here. And they nitpick, man. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And he that was healed was not who it was, for Yahushua had conveyed himself away, a multitude being in that place.
Yeah, so in other words, where he was at, he looked back and see Christ. Christ was gone, and now there was a multitude there. Because remember, the guy just asked him, well, who was it that healed you? Continue.
Verse 14. Afterward, Yahushua findeth him in the temple, and said unto him, behold, thou art made whole. Sin no more, lest the worst thing come unto thee.
You think them last 38 years was bad? You sin again and watch what else happen. That's what he told him. And I'll make sure, I'll talk to my father, make sure you live another 50 years to experience it. This dude been bound and couldn't do nothing for 38 years. Boom, Christ pop up behind him. Make sure you live right now, lest a worse thing befall you. And that goes to show you, you can ask yourself the question, what could be worse than 38 years not being able to walk? Or how curious are you? Sin again and find out. Go ahead.
Verse 15. The man departed and told the Jews that it was Yahushua which had made him whole. And therefore did the Jews persecute Yahushua and sought to slay him because he had done these things on the Sabbath day.
Is that cold-blooded or what? Look at that. You're going to kill a man because he did good on the Sabbath? These ain't no sticks being picked up. And so I'm just making it a point to emphasize, to re-emphasize, and then again overemphasize to define what well is. Depends on what each person is doing. Hell, down in California, let me see, California, Albuquerque, trying to think of all the places where the dynamic that we had on the Sabbath was you got up early in the morning and the first thing we did on the Sabbath was go work out. We worked out for 3 or 4 hours on the Sabbath. We did it in Albuquerque. We did it in California. San Antonio didn't get that treatment. I used to go out on my own. Let me see. Oklahoma, Miami. We worked people out. Then everybody went, got something to eat, got freshened up, showered up, wherever. Then we came back to the school and had class all day. Was the workout necessary? Couldn't we have just got up and had class and had that much more time to have class all day? Yeah, exactly. But why did we work out? Because men need to be built. Simple and plain. And people don't understand what exercise does. And you can clearly see that, and they'll say, bodily exercise profit little. Maybe so, but the Bible doesn't say bodily exercise is profit of nothing. These niggas be reading the scriptures wrong. So they be running around here with all this obesity, not doing nothing about it, not exercising any abstinence, not exercising any discipline. But guess what exercise does? Exercise is one of the many platforms, but it's probably most effective, where you exercise the mind into taking control over the body. And then sometimes you could start off early in a man's development with exercise. Other times you have to take a break and you really have to strengthen the mind to that point first. Then you say, okay, now we're going to go and teach you to push yourself beyond these physical limits. These limits that you didn't set for yourself through ignorance, through never having been pushed. And then on top of that, it brings men together. And then all of a sudden, the Most High blessed us and we were able to open up a security company, a bodyguarding company, with those same men that used to work out early in the morning on the Sabbath and then go to class. That's how, listen, and the Most High blessed it. And the only time the work came to a halt is when the fairness was no longer there. The blessing was no longer being evenly distributed and properly allocated, just like it says in the book of Acts. Niggas in Israel started acting like Christians, Christian pastors, and just hoarding the blessing. And when you read Acts, the end of Acts chapter 2 and the end of Acts chapter 4, it tells you that when sacrifices were made, things were sold, the monies were brought back. It says that the apostles made even distribution, that everybody, that nobody lacked. That means I'm not trying to live a lifestyle beyond those. If anything, I'm gonna be the humble cat. Y'all gonna have the house, I'm gonna be living with somebody in some basement somewhere. Or maybe they got a room at the school. Call me Igor, what the hell? Because that's when Peter got sent down to talk to Cornelius, where was he living at? He was living with a Peter the Tanner or a Simon the Tanner. These cats, they had given up everything. So they became what? They went, like Christ said in John chapter 8, where the wind took them. Where faith and the gospel took them. So when the masses began to come, it wasn't all into, oh, now I could do this, or now I could get this. Okay, who have need of what? They would see to the congregation, and they having had given up all they needed was what they needed. And that's how we're supposed to be operating. We're supposed to be, and when we don't, the Most High don't deal with us. The Most High rejects us, he chastises us so that as to correct us, so that we can correct our way. I'm gonna get this up yet. That was
that was verse. Yeah.
Okay, go from there to John chapter 7. Just two verses, verse 22 and 23. John chapter 7, verse 22 and 23. Let me see something. I might have to chill on that one. Yeah, let's do that one, and then I'm gonna go into another mode with the Sabbath issue. John chapter 7, verse 22 and 23.
Moses therefore gave unto you circumcision, not because it is of Moses, but of the fathers. And ye on the
is that John chapter 7?
Yeah, John chapter 7, 22.
Okay, let me get there. Read it again. Go ahead and read it.
Moses therefore gave unto you circumcision, not because it is of Moses, but of the fathers. And ye on the Sabbath day circumcise a man. If a man on the Sabbath day receive circumcision, that the law of the Moses should not be broken, are ye angry at me because I have made a man every whit whole on the Sabbath day?
Okay, you know what he's doing? See, what happened was when a man was born on the 8th day of his life, he had to be circumcised. So imagine you being born, and then it turns out that you're 8 days old, but that 8th day happens to be on the Sabbath. But because of the law that the Most High gave to Abraham, it has to be 5. You can't say, I'll come back, we'll do it tomorrow. And you can't do it a day early. Oh, tomorrow's the Sabbath. So this is what this is what Christ is saying. Christ said, hold on, in order to keep the law of Moses, you eliminate something from a little man. He said, in order to not break the law of the circumcision, you go ahead and you clip him. But then you're gonna get mad at me because I come back and make a man whole on the Sabbath. In other words, just the level of nitpickiness. You understand? So let's do this, because I want to ask a question that I want to answer. Is what drink some water. Between Moses, between the service of Moses and the ministry of Christ, what happened, y'all? What happened? What took place that ushered in for us, I guess what some people would like to call a change, but it wasn't a change. This development, who knows? Something happened. And when I say something, meaning what can you characterize that as? As a man getting stoned, being put in ward, and then being stoned for having gathered sticks, to Christ coming and chastising the apostles for the Pharisees for their hypocrisy concerning things done on the Sabbath. The Most High took us through a long period where we were supposed to be taught, and we were being taught. The Most High was bringing balance. I'm going to show you that. As a matter of fact, go to Galatians, right? Because what happens is we use for this question, it's not just the Sabbath. In other words, the question is directed to really ask what happened that brought about this sense of, I'm going to call it leniency, right? What development took place that ushered us to where we now stand concerning the Sabbath and the law in general? And the law in general. The Sabbath is just one aspect of the law. What happened? We go to Galatians chapter 4. We're going to read Galatians chapter 4, verses 1 through 7, and then also Galatians chapter 3. Galatians chapter 4, verses 1 through 7 is first, and then Galatians chapter 3, verses 21 through 29. That's what we're going to do. So you can go ahead and start when you get there, Amiyatazar.
Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all.
Stop. Paul is using an analogy. He's using an analogy to make a point that applies to the nation of Israel. Continue.
Verse 2. But 'tis under tutors and governors unto the time appointed of the father.
So listen to this. When it says the son, as long, even though he be heir, read it again, Amiyatazar.
Verse 1.
The heir.
Now say that the heir, as long as he's a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all.
So we're working from, in this analogy, from the perspective of a king who has a son whose destiny is to be what? The Lord of everything. But while he is a child, there's a treatment that he has to be under because he's a child. And that treatment is nothing more than a servant. He has to be treated as though he's a servant. Why? Because that's how he's going to learn the kingdom. But he's going to be learning firsthand from the king and all things and all representatives and appointees in the king's court. I don't know if you guys ever did a study on how these elite families and these so-called royal houses and just rich people in general, how they, I mean, really rich. I ain't talking about, nigga with a couple of Benzes. How they raise their children, man. They don't be sitting in all these schools. Brother, they get up in the morning at 6 and then they have their breakfast. And before you know it, this is Luigi, and he's going to be your Italian teacher. He does an hour of Italian. This is Giovanni. He's going to be your French teacher. He does an hour of French. This person comes in and teaches him fencing. This person comes in and teaches him history. This one teaches him other things, humanities, architecture. This is what happens to these children. And so that by the time, a lot of people think that these rich people that come from these days, that they can't fight. Back in the day, brother, they were the most deadly because all they did was get educated and get taught war. but they were, but that was their job, to learn, to be, and listen, and to be disciplined, to be chastised, as though they were nothing more than a servant. Read on down.
Galatians chapter 4, verse 2. But it's under tutors and governors unto the time appointed of the Father.
So it shows you, while he's in the child phase, he is under tutors and governors. A tutor is someone who's there to teach him, and the governors are who control him. That's, to govern means to literally to govern, to control him. It's as if he was the servant. Go ahead.
Galatians chapter 4, verse 3. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world.
So when he says children, we were children, it's talking about Israel in its nativity. And we were children. We were born into a nation in Egypt, and the Most High brought us out. And that was our first, we were born, think about that. That's why the Most High refers to us now. When you read Micah chapter 4, he refers to our delivery process as a woman in travail. And then contractions hit Egypt, and then contractions go down as what? Went down in history as those plagues. And then bang, that bloody night of the Passover, the Most High what? Delivered Israel. And we were babes. And so while we were babes, we were under tutors. He said the elements of the world are referring to what? Our impulses that led us to constantly violate this new law that we were given. Because that was designed to do what? To teach us. And then when we err, it exercised the governorship that's manifested in chastisement. That's what happened when we were kids. Keep on. I'm going to get this up. Verse 3 again.
Verse 4.
Go ahead, verse 4.
But when the fullness of the time was come, the Most High sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law.
Okay, stop. So when it says when the time had come is talking about when the Most High had determined. Christ came at the appointed time. Israel had gone through what? Enough of experience to now be what? The Most High already started planting the seeds of redemption. We still had to go through our so many thousands of years more of punishment. But Christ came to already pay that debt. Go ahead.
Verse 5. To redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. And because ye are sons, the Most High have sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father.
Stop right there. No, go ahead. We read one more.
Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of the Most High through Yahushua.
So hold on. What is it? This might be a bit indirect to you, but we're going to go to the next one in chapter 3, and it's going to clear it up. The Most High, we had to go through a process that was designed to take us from the stage of a child, which is a servant, up into a son, which is an heir. And that, in other words, what were we learning? We were learning what tutors and governors teach you. We were learning information, and then we learn what happened when we do not abide by that information. And then we learn what happened when we abide by it. That's the purpose of the governors. The governors are there for control. How do you control people? The more obedient they are, the more liberty they have. That's what the Most High did with us. We are obedient, we have liberties, and then the more benefits, the more benevolent the governor shows himself to you. But then in the time when you go astray, in the time when you violate the laws, when you violate how you're supposed to operate, then the Most High have the governor what? Chastise, clamp down, and then you lose liberties. You only see now the severe side of the governor. That's what that was all about. So there was a process that we were under. That's why the Most High went from killing the man for picking up sticks, because we had to be taught to respect it first. And through thousands of years, the respect and the fear of what would happen, the chastisement, the severity would mold in us such a respect that the Most High would begin to be benevolent and let us know it was really all about making sure that you do good on the Sabbath. But to start off and show how serious it is that you honor the word of the Most High, The next phase, you have to learn really about what? About consequences. Consequences for your actions. Answer for your actions. Assume responsibility for your decisions. And as you grow up and mature, it's the very same reason we deal with our kids. When my children are young, listen, I'm not trying to reason to them. They got a mind of a kid, a child, I should say. Kid is a damn goat. They have the mind of a child. I'm not trying to make it make sense. Do what I tell you to do. I'm gonna knock the hell out of you. But then once he grow up and they see what I'm teaching them works, now I know I can lead up and be a little bit more benevolent with them. And that's what I'm practicing now. You know, got a 19-year-old and going on 23-year-old, two young men, but I was harsh as hell when they were younger. Because I don't want you to obey. But when you get older, the process that you've gone through brings understanding. It's the very reason why we be thanking our parents for having chastised us. Because now we think like them. We understand the perils. We understand the dangers. We understand that at that age, we're not prepared to make what? Those types of decisions. And so we have to be thought for. In other words, someone else has to think for us. And in order to make sure I abide by someone else's thinking, there comes chastisement when I go outside of their thinking. Their thinking being what they've told me to do and how they expect me to behave. When I go outside that, I have to be chastised so I can stick with their thinking. Now let's go to chapter 3 and wind it down. Because it tells you that they were just what? Instruments of learning until Christ would get here. Instruments, tools to help us grasp the concepts that the Most High is trying to teach us. So we go to Galatians chapter 3, Amiyatazah, and you're going to start off at verse 21.
Is the law then against the promises of the Most High? The Most High forbid. For if there had been a law given which could have given life, verily righteousness should have been by the law.
Now this be going over a lot of people's heads, because the question is what? That could you really establish or could you attain righteousness through the law? And Paul is saying, had there been a law? Listen, this is a cold question right here. Is the law then against the promises of the Most High? The Most High forbid. For if there had been a law given which could have given life, this is suggesting what? That the law that was given didn't give life. And it didn't. But what was it about the law that didn't give life? It was our inability to accommodate it. Because when it all comes down to it, you don't have to commit adultery with your neighbor. You don't have to steal. You don't have to bear false witness. You don't have to covet. But there's a thing inside of us that was planted in the time of Adam, that we're governed by impulses. That's what it says in chapter 4 about by the elements of the world. We were in bondage under the elements of the world. That means the things in the world that provoke our impulses. This guy's big booty wife that's flirting with me. This thing sitting over there that I saw him leaving. I could have said, hey, brother, you left your wallet, but I wanted him to leave so I could kind of creep on over there and then get the wallet to see what's in it. It's still theft. You saw him leave. You could have helped him. You could have, hey man, hey brother, you dropped your wallet. But we got those impulses. And so the severity of the outcome of our decisions taught us now honesty. It taught us respect. So the law wasn't designed, he's showing you, to bring about life. The law was designed to bring about the consequences of your actions that led to death, so that you could learn to do what? Respect the law. I don't know if you guys get it, but this is where we are. So in other words, the severity that was being exercised was for the sake of instilling in us what? Exercising us. When I say exercising, meaning giving us the experience of what happens when you disobey. Because that's what prepares the up and coming king. Because if he don't get that, he's going to end up being like that nigga in the Man with the Iron Mask. Y'all ever seen that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? Y'all ain't never seen that movie? All right. So remember how cruel the dude was? Because ain't nobody never just chin checked his ass. His parents never beat his ass. But the person who had been behind that iron mask for all of them years, he came out, he was just too kind because he knew what suffering was about. Anyway, read on down on the Yetazah. He's letting us know that the law was not really designed to make us righteous. It was designed to exploit our flaws, to teach us by chastisement, and then we mature to the point where at least the best we can hope out of this experience before Christ comes is to have developed to a human being or to an Israelite that wants to do right. And so you fight like hell to do good, knowing that we're riddled with flaws. We're fallible. Go ahead.
Galatians chapter 4, verse 22. But the scripture have concluded all under sin, that the promise by faith of Yahushua might be given to them that believe.
So the Most High said, okay, you all under sin. Why? So for the people who never committed adultery, but was messing up on the Sabbath, you both share equal sin. The guy over there that was stealing, you ain't no different than the person over there that was coveting his neighbor's ox. You understand? He said, I find you all so that what? So that now the criteria for being saved is faith in Christ. Yes, you still have to follow the law. Yes, you still got to follow the commandments, but that's not going to be the sole determinant. That's just going to be the motivation that I use to make you do things. In other words, the works. Because you can say you believe, but what do you give me? This is the Most High speaking. What do you give me wherewith I can, or with which I can measure your belief? Following the laws. But knowing that that we can't necessarily fulfill the law to the Most High's pleasure, I'm not measuring you by the law anyway. I'm measuring your faith. But I'm using what you do and how you behave to measure your faith. And so now righteousness for you is determined by your faith in Christ. But faith without works is dead. Read on down on the Yetazah.
Verse 23. But before faith came, we were kept under the law.
So I hope you guys get it. So before the option to be measured by faith came, we were under the law. The only device through which the Most High was measuring us then was keep the law. But once he taught us the lesson and could move us to the next grade, okay, I know why, and the scriptures tell you that. Real quick, I'm going to show you something. The proof it was all a setup. Go to Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 17. Isaiah saw it. Isaiah said, damn, this is a setup. What?
Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 17. Huh?
Yeah, read it.
No, there isn't a verse 17.
Try 56. It might be Jeremiah. Man, hold up.
It's Isaiah 58 goes to 14.
Okay, what's 59 do?
59 goes to 21.
Okay, I gotta find it, man. Hold up. But that one is not, it's not going to be in Isaiah 59. And I don't want to spoil it by saying it, right? But I'll find it right now. Hold up. The hardest part for me, let me see something. It might turn out to be in Ezekiel. Let me see. You all right, I'm Yetazah?
Yeah.
You keep letting out them. Oh.
My nose is blocked.
What is L? Okay, hold up. It is Isaiah. Is that no? I'm Isaiah 68. Isaiah 68 and verse 17. I said 58, huh?
Yeah.
Isaiah 68 and verse 17.
Okay. Huh? Isaiah 68. There isn't one.
Well, what the hell is LX? L is 50, right? X is 10. That's 60. Isaiah 63. I'm reading Roman numerals. Isaiah 63. Once it get past 50, it confusing me, brother. I know that the L, I know that the 10, the 3 I's, I is 1, 2 I, 3 I, 4, and then the V is 5, the VI is 6, so on up to 10, the X is 10, 3X, 2X is 10, 20, 3X is 30, the L, the L before the X before the L is 40, and then the L by itself is 50, and then the LX is 60. This, then you get all, and then the C is 100. Go ahead, brother. Isaiah 63 and verse 17.
O Lord, why hast thou made us to err from thy ways, and hardened our heart from thy fear?
Now this is Isaiah praying to the Most High. Why did you make us like this? Why hast thou made us to err from thy ways and harden our hearts? Like the Most High hardened Pharaoh's heart? Hell, he would come back and harden our heart, because this is a process that was designed to teach us. And we don't learn why we follow the law and why we have to keep righteousness until we break it. That's the lesson. The lesson is the consequence. The lesson is the death that bring it about. And Adam had to find out the same thing. But Adam set us on our trajectory. And all of this is what the Most High was speaking of, y'all, when he said back in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26, let us make man in our image. Everybody thinks that statement, that verse, is in reference to a form, a physical form that we would be made in. But it was in reference to a spiritual mind that we would be raised up in. That's what it was. And so we had to learn that. That's why Christ had to come down and do it himself and fall as Adam. And then come back and fall as Solomon, and then come back and make up for all that. He was used to usher us into the lesson, and he was used to usher us outside. He is the person through whom the lesson began, and he is the person through whom we also graduate, because that's the image in whom we're being made, following his trajectory. So read that verse one more time, and then we go back to Galatians 3.
O Lord, why hast thou made us to err from thy ways, and hardened our heart from thy fear? Return for thy servant's sake the tribes of thine inheritance.
So he's just begging for what? To become a son again. Return the tribes to thine inheritance. What is our inheritance? To be the sons of the Most High. So just like what we read in chapter 4 of Galatians. Now let's go back to chapter 3 and pick up where you left off again, Amayetza. What verse was that?
It was chapter 4, wasn't it?
It was chapter, no, we did chapter 4. We did chapter 4.
Oh, we're in chapter 3. Yeah, we're in chapter 3.
20, you were at verse
22 or
okay.
23. Hold on.
Yeah,
23.
Okay, yeah.
Verse 23. So Galatians chapter 3 and verse 23. But before faith came, we were kept under the law, shut up unto the faith which should afterwards be revealed.
So he already had the plan of changing up the criteria. But in order to make us what? Eligible subjects who would appreciate being able to be saved through our faith, he had to what? Demonstrate to us our nature. Demonstrate to us our fallibilities. I'm going to prove that. The nature and the fallibility is one that is gravitates and subject and controlled by your impulses. And so then you end up having to learn the severity of the law. But that's how you learn how important it is to keep the law. Because we get put down, removed, and then the Most High puts in the lawless man. And when I say the lawless man, I'm talking about the one who even the Most High hadn't planned on giving him the law. So we can see, had not the Most High stopped us, what the world would come to, but we would be responsible for where it is now. So he used Esau, who was created to be that vessel. The scriptures tell you he was created to be the vessel unto dishonor. He wasn't given the law so that we can see unchecked, no laws, this is what happened. And here we are, we got little boys getting their penises chopped off, becoming girls. I watched a certain section of the debate with Biden or was it Kamala? No, it was Biden and Trump, I believe. I only saw excerpts of it where some lady stood up in the crowd and said, "Yes, I have 2 daughters, and one of them is making a transition. Now, as he's a boy, she won't let him get his balls cut off." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going," he be talking all dizzy and stuff. But the point was, I said, man, they pushing this program so heavy. I don't even believe she was an authentic person in the audience who asked the question. I really do believe she was planted there. But then at the same time, these people are like that. So the question could very well have been from an authentic person who was asking an authentic question. But Esau, either way, you don't know with him because that's how lawless he is. But this, had we not been punished, would be us. And don't say we wouldn't, because we still killing our kids with abortion. We still taking drugs. The number one, the people who come out the hardcore heaviest in that lifestyle are Israelites. That could easily be us, but the Most High checked us and removed us to give us the lesson of disobedience, and then to give us also through Him the lesson of what it will come to if not what, if not chastised, if allowed the liberty to take it on to the end. And so it tells you the law. We were under that until the time of faith would come. So now we're being met. Now, what question am I answering? I'm answering the question, what development did we undergo that ushered in what some people could call a leniency? Well, we got the lesson. Look at us. Those of us that's in class, look at the nation. Look at the globe that when we fell, who it was handed over to and what he did with it. To now, he don't even want people to breathe God's air. You got to put this mask on for this thing that's in all humans. This thing called a virus. There's no vaccination for something that's a part of your immune system. For something that you're born with, that's designed to be the vessel in which your body dumps toxins and then removes it in the form of sickness. This would be us doing this to the world. This would be us doing this to the creation. But the Most High said, no, I'm gonna check y'all. I'm gonna give you your lesson of disobedience. Then I'm gonna show you what would happen. It's like the movie Scrooge, where you go and you see this nigga in the future. This is what you're gonna be if you don't change, boy. That's what he's doing. Read on down on the Yetazah. Read verse 23 again.
Verse 23 of Galatians. But before faith came, we were kept under the law, shut up unto the faith which should afterwards be revealed.
Go ahead.
Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Yahushai.
And so that's why we read all the verses about the Sabbath. The law was our schoolmaster. That was the person standing in front with the big old thick yardstick or the ruler. Attention, everybody. Shut up, Johnny Smack. Go to the such and such office. Get your ass in that corner and put that dunce hat on. It was the schoolmaster. You give me damn 20 push-ups. You go over there and I want you to stand in the corner with your books in your hand like this. These are all the things that back in the old days, they teach you to do discipline. You go over there and you stand in the corner with your arms up like that. And then pop, they smack you over the back when you see the arms dropping. Now sit down and be quiet and learn. The Most High had the law be a schoolmaster to develop us to realize that what? That we need Christ and we want to be changed. Do you really want to be changed? You have to believe that this is my son. Well, how do I know you believe? You're going to do your best to keep the law. And I'm not measuring your righteousness by the law. I'm measuring your righteousness by your faith in Christ. But you're demonstrating me your faith in Christ by following the law. That's what he's doing. And so that doesn't just apply to the Sabbath. That applies to the law, period. But I'm just using this question concerning the Sabbath to introduce that to us. And so I was saying, when these brothers start coming and trying to be like, that's why we went through all them scriptures, just to show you the ludicrous nature of their position. It can't be, and then they come back and say, well, you can't use the excuse of the fact that we're in captivity for not keeping the Sabbath. Well, what's your excuse for not giving up your whole body, mind, and soul to the work then? Why are you a weekend Israelite? Why are you a YouTube Israelite only? Well, when are you going to step out on faith? Because they be trying to measure everybody else by their own standards. And that's called self-righteousness. You're righteous by your own standards. Over righteousness is just you trying to expect that this thing can be done the way it's supposed to be done in the Bible, and it can't. But we don't say it can't, use it as an excuse and not do it. We recognize and we do what we fight. We try to do everything we can, and that which can't be done simply can't be done. But look at all that the Most High is blessing that we are able to do. Read that verse again on the Yetzirah.
Verse 24. Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Yahushua, that we might be justified by faith.
So that our righteousness can be recognized through our faith. That's what justified means. The Most High accepts you as being righteous, not by the perfection of your deeds, but by what? But by your faith in Christ and a demonstration of your faith. Go ahead.
Verse 25. But after that faith has come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster.
Now, what does that mean? When he says, but after that faith is coming, now that Christ has come, then remember, faith is Christ, the schoolmaster is the law. Now that faith has come, you're no longer under schoolmaster. Is that saying you don't keep the law? He said, no, you're not being measured by that. Your eligibility to be saved is not going to be determined by the schoolmaster or determined by the law. It's going to be determined by your faith, which is going to be measured by the law. Now, I don't know if y'all see the difference in that, but you go to James and you read chapter 2 where it tells you about how faith profited nothing if you got no works, because there has to be something to demonstrate your faith. And that's what the law is. And then Christ ultimately came back and said what? He said, man, love thy neighbor as thyself. Thou shalt love the Lord with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. When you do that, you are keeping the Sabbath. When you do that, you are keeping all the rest of the law. Then you come back and you read Matthew 25, and you done treated these men, these women, these children good. You did that to me. Come on in this kingdom, man. That's how it's going to be, sister. I hope, because we could go on forever and ever, sister, to be honest with you. But I hope that that was, is Sister Arakai still there?
I'm here.
Is that sufficient enough for you? Is that clear enough for you?
That's clear. I have a couple other questions, but
I can't hear you. Could you come to the front toward the mic, please?
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
So I have a couple of other examples because you did exhaust everything pertaining to the Sabbath, so I thank you for that. A couple other examples that I have would be birthdays and fringes.
Hey, listen, sister, this is what we'll do. Because once we get through these questions, I'm going to go into my apocalyptic blitz. All right, meaning we're going to start, because I'm going to start teaching y'all where we are now and what to look for. So we're going to be doing Daniel's Revelation, second chapter, and all of that. So this is good because next Friday, sister, we're going to deal with birth. Well, I told the brother about, what's that term again? The Mamzars?
Yeah, Mamzars.
Yeah, we're going to deal with the Mamzars next Friday. And then after the Mamzars, sister, we're going to deal with the birthdays. And look, but let me say this up front. And I know in YouTube, so it's going to be great. You can't find a law where the Most High say you can't honor or recognize a birthday, anniversary, like the day you and your husband got together, your grandmama and your granddaddy been together for 7. There ain't no law against that. You know, I was saying people be all being over damn righteous. And I have script, I'm gonna show you that. You got, listen, and that's the beautiful thing because the Most High just told us to follow the law. Well, in the Satan book, you know, and I done seen all this. In the Satanic book, the highest satanic form of holiday is to worship oneself. Well, nigga, I read the Bible. I read the Satanic book. What is wrong with these people? They be wanting to enslave you. So we're gonna have class on that. We're gonna do Matthew chapter 13 to deal with the Mamzers. Mamzers. That word is so foreign to me, man. And then we're going to deal with things like that, because then they'll come back and get Jeremiah that said, cursed be the day that I was born. See, Jeremiah was, did you get the visions that Jeremiah was reading? Jeremiah was saying, cursed be the day that I was born, that I should live to see this befall Israel. I'm going to show you that. That's what the whole book of Lamentations is about. And then they haven't been wise enough, or I should say foolish enough, to even use Job. Job's whole chapter 3 is dedicated to wishing he had died when he was born. But why? Because of what happened to him in chapter 1 and chapter 2. It wasn't saying it's a curse. Now, you know, I'm going to teach the Bible. So I know it ain't going to be popular, and I don't give 2 damns, let alone 3, or what people think. But you got to go into that book and find out what the Lord said, don't do it. And you can't find that. And if you do, please show it to me, and I will change. The next day, I'll do an emergency broadcast. I'll be like, sorry, Shamswan, I need to cut it on your Wednesday nights. But I said something that I was wrong, and I rebuked that thought because the brother came forward with scripture, because I'm open to that. But so far from what I've seen, I ain't seen nothing wrong with that. And then you got other brothers that, you know, they just want to be imposing stuff on people, man. That's why I say our people, if you let them go without checking their ass in the Bible, Israel will become tyrants. And I'm not lying, because look at this nigga that the Most High killed called the Comforter. Look at the elders that followed him. These niggas became tyrants. So ain't nobody bringing my ass into captivity under no nothing. So I don't give a damn what book they say the highest satanic day is this. I don't adhere to that book. I don't subscribe to that book. I'm an Israelite. You know? And our book is the Bible. Brothers, man, they make me sick with this. I should, you know, never mind. But anyway, so that's what we're gonna do. We're going to like the fringes. Man, y'all ain't never, my fringes all got ate the hell up out here. Y'all ain't seen me in fringes in 20 years. You ain't see us in fringes with me and I was doing it because we barely, you know, the brothers barely, and somebody called me one time, yeah, man, I noticed you didn't have your fringes. You know, and is that and do that brother's reading for you? Is them dreadlocks? I said, no, those are braids, you know, and I don't have fringes because, you know, we didn't realize that when I moved out here that the region that we live in has a reservoir of waters on top of a lake. And you just have all year round continual humidity coming. It molds the walls every year. You end up with black mold in certain rooms. You end up with the regular white mold everywhere, to the point where it raises up off the wall and it looks like hair. So everything that I had fringe got messed up, and I ain't going out buying no more. Got no money for it. I literally got no income. What are y'all talking about? But you got all these other cats running around here with the fringes on looking beautiful and talking about the 2-woman doctrine, and making fun of the name of the Most High. And those of us that say Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Barakatah. And that's why the scriptures say, he is a Jew from the inward and not from the outward, of Romans chapter 3. Brothers be thinking that, listen, what did Christ tell our people in Matthew 23? He said, you hypocrites, you Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you're like whited sepulchres that are all beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones. And don't be letting nobody bring you into slavery. Christ's gonna check us all. He's gonna say, Kawakab, you should have stopped using so much vulgar language and your evil thoughts and your violent thoughts. I ain't gonna whip my ass, but I'm like, Lord, but I was teaching. I was fighting like hell to teach, you know? And it's the truth. Ain't nobody gonna come out of this unscathed and unpunished. But we have to recognize that our laws and our commandments, our statutes, and our hope, and our when I say hope, I'm moving on to the New Testament. It's all in the Bible, and no other book, and nobody's other's tradition. Anton LaVey, all of them cats in the Church of Satan in San Francisco, I don't give a damn how many books they wrote. They didn't write the Bible. So that's who we follow. We follow the Most High. We follow Christ. The hell with all of them other doctrines. The hell with all the other brothers that lock into the doctrines, that cross-reference and cross-breed these knowledges. The hell with all of them. Christ gonna check. That's why in the book Paul says, why judgest thou another man's servant? You're not the one who called me into this work. The Most High did. He's gonna measure me. I'm not going down that doctrine of nobody can judge me. You all can judge me. The scriptures don't tell us not to judge. It says just make sure whatever you judge by, know that that's how you're going to be judged. That's what Matthew chapter 7 tells us. When it says judge not lest ye be judged, then there's more to it. And so what book do we adhere to, sister? One more time, we adhere to the Bible. You know, and if you have it for the fringes and stuff, then do it. Because I used to be covered in so many fringes, nigga look like cousin It walking down the street. Remember the nigga from the Addams family with all that hair? I was proud of my fringes. Even the cops used to stop me because I got here 2 years after they had signed the peace agreement, the peace accord after a 36-year civil war. So anybody that popped up down here different was looked upon and treated like a potential, what do they call those? Say that again?
Radical?
No, well, yeah, like that, but rather you said, what word was that? I can't hear you. It's not.
Militant.
Yeah, guerrillero. Yeah, they're like a potential guerrilla. In other words, like you could say it like that, Dawiyah, what you said. In other words, a potential threat to the newly found and signed peace. Because they signed the peace accords, and a lot of the guerrilleros got left out of it. Like most of the politicians in Guatemala that are not for you got different political parties that can spring up like that all over. But in the beginning, or I should say, when I first got down here, the majority of the political parties were all fractions of the guerrilla or the guerrilla, which were the rebels that had formed political parties. And so those that got left out of the deals and the accords, they was robbing banks and kidnapping people because they didn't get nothing that incite or that incentivized them changing. So here I pop up with all the fringes and the shield of David, teaching everybody out in the park and stuff like that. Man, I had a teacher that said, man, brother named Raphael said, man, you better take that jacket off. Or your ass they're gonna take that, the cops gonna take that from you, them MPs. And I was like, man, nigga, you ain't got no faith, bro. I got faith. Now I went out there with my jacket to the park and them MPs rolled on me. Papeles, por favor. Where's your papers? I was like, I had a whole bunch of papers, shoot. And then they went to start rolling on me, trying to get all my stuff. And out of nowhere, the Most High sent a bunch of sisters from Honduras. Oh my God, man, look at those fringes. They were loving it, brother. And the cops, they sat there for a while. Oh, and they all started taking pictures with me, and the cops just sauntered off. But the Most High was showing me, you gotta listen, your ass ain't from here. This is a different place than from the States. Somebody tell you how to roll like that, and they looking out for your safety, you gotta listen. So it's been a very humbling experience out here too, but shit, nobody loved rolling in fringes. I had one woman tell me, man, could you kind of tone it down, you know, about my friends, because I'll go out in Jersey and meet her from New York and hang out with her. And so I turned it down. I stopped coming. She talking about, she wanted me to stop wearing the fringes, right? I was wearing fringes everywhere. Studs, big ass Herman the Monster boots, all of that, like trying to get as many inches on my height as I possibly could. She was like, turbans out, big ass Temple of Doom, you know, the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom turban, brother. My turban was so big you could have put a fishbowl inside of it, brother. But she said, you got to tone it down just a little bit. And I said, all right, I'll tone it down. She didn't hear from me a long ass time. Where you been out? I've been out toning it down. Shoot. But then I ended up in different circumstances, you know, and I'm not gonna lie, we never made that an issue out here. My system, it wasn't a system, it was just different. You know, it was what the Most High allowed for me to build, for Amayatazan, myself and the Brashwan and others to build. And then the dynamic evolved in a very relaxed manner because we put more emphasis on teaching people. And so we were in a place where if you were too far out, then you did more repelling of people. So it was to our benefit to simply blend in. And we found out everybody in the world was curious about Black people. We were walking down the street and some people would pop up coming and visiting the little tourist town. everybody always wanted to take pictures of us. Can we take a picture? Bring on, come on, y'all can bring our family. Come on, bro. But sometimes the women come and the men be standing back being reserved. Now these women gonna get your ass whooped by these men. Hey, brother, come on. I'll put the man right by me. Yeah, bro, what's up? And all of that because not because we was friends, but because we was black. What y'all doing down here? And we ended up talking and teaching them about the truth. That's why Paul said, I became all things to all men. And to them that were without the law, well, I wasn't down here in the land of Israel with people that knew. I was down in the land with people that didn't have no idea. So I had to appear to them as one of them. Because they would always assume he was either from Brazil, Honduras, Puerto Barrios, Cuba. I said, yeah, man, my parents are from this place. You know, it was about getting in and having people wanting to talk to you. This is why I was teaching my sons before the whole COVID thing. Where we have to be out there. We have to be where people can see us. We have to be where people know where we are every certain day so they'll know they can come here. And in a short time, we was out there teaching. But like I said, Israel put so much emphasis in traditions and then things that they pick up. We have too many sources of information that we refer to outside the Bible. What do I mean when I say that? Meaning people will pick this up. What I fucking care about the Satanists, what they do. Yeah, every Saturday, Satanists have a chicken dinner. I'm like, me too, shit. You know, like them niggas don't do things that we happen to do. Shoot. Yeah, man, do you know that the Satan take hot showers? Damn, so do I. What type of soap they use? Shoot. Anyway, so that's what we'll deal with next week. Next week, we're going to deal with Matthew chapter 13, and it's going to be deal with the Manzers. Now, the Manzers, what they said on that definition that Dawiyad read, is really symbolic of the tares. You understand? Is Israel's father, or is a person's father an Israelite, or is their mother the Israelite and the father a foreigner? That's the true question. Yes, Dawiyad.
And also, if your parents weren't like if your parents weren't married on paper, then that makes you a bastard because you were born of unlawful bed or out of wedlock.
It's fucking, y'all gonna make me just, I'm trying to respect y'all's
Language.
respect y'all's broadcast, man. What's wrong with the world, huh? That's the Bible. That basically, so what they're saying is you're fornicating. That your parents fornicated. That's what they're saying. Because what
that's like the majority of Israel right there.
You know? I ain't got no kids with no paper. The hell?
Were they even born with marriage?
All my children is bastards. All 8 of them. What are you talking about? The hell is wrong with people, man? Riding down and rolling up. Shoot. Who you calling the bastard riding down the You, nigga. Look at you. But anyway, so thank you for that, because all of this is just clearing up the scriptures. You know what? And people be talking about perfect seed. What did the Most High tell us in Isaiah chapter 47? The Most High said, I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance. I did put them in thine hands. Talking to Esau, talking to Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, Isaiah chapter 47. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance. I didst put them in thine hand, and thou didst show them no mercy. The Most High knew what was going to happen. He knew what was going to happen here. That was the whole point. The chastisement. You read Daniel chapter 7, the Most High said that the fourth beast would wear out the saints. Look at what we're doing now. But yet that remnant is going to be saved. And the Most High said he have chose the despised things, right? The weak things. We are the people that come from the what? Those how can we put it? Irreputable backgrounds. Like I always try, I'll tell myself, I ain't got no shame in my thing, because I held that shame. I walked in shame for too many years before I came into the truth to get the truth and still walk in shame. Like my mother, I'm probably got to have other brothers and sisters that I don't know about, but we all had different fathers. My mother's, the last I heard of, she was still doing heroin and still holding around for the heroin. So that's it. There's that. You understand? But when you read 1 Corinthians chapter 15, it tells you about the resurrection of the dead, how the things are sown in corruption and raised in incorruption, sown in dishonor, but raised in glory. Israel is sick, man. We won't let the Bible heal us. We do everything in the world to keep from being healed by the Bible. But the word says it was neither herb nor mollifying plaster that restored them to health, but thy word, O Lord, which healeth all things. That's why we stick with the word of the Most High. And with that, I'm going to say shalom, brothers and sisters, and I'll see you next Friday, where we'll be dealing primarily with the tear issue, and then the paper birth, whatever you want to call it, issue. And then we're going to go into the whole birthday zone. All right? All right. Thank y'all for tolerating me, brothers and sisters. I love all of y'all.
Shalom.
Shalom. I'll see you in
Shalom.
about 3 hours, brother.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see.